Now we're laughing at the beginning of the show. TikTok, time to rock. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's watching from all over the world. It's your friendly neighborhood philosopher here, D Wood. And with me now, we got the apostate prophet. How you doing, AP?
I'm doing fantastic. I am doing very, very well. How are you doing?
Good, good, good. You heard of this Mohammed Hijab guy?
Who?
There's this guy named Mohammed Hijab.
Sounds like that sounds like somebody who really doesn't like Islam made up a name to be funny and came up with that.
So you've
Yeah.
got this Mohammed Hijab. How many years now? How many years has it been since we've been telling them what will happen if you take a narcissist and you make them the champion of dawah, and then people rally around him, and then he gets a bunch of fans, and then because he has a bunch of fans, he knows he can get away with more, so he starts crossing lines, and then you freak out. And when you freak out, what does he do? He says, "Oh, you're a weakling. You see, you can't respond to me. You're just jealous." And then his fans jump all over you and so on, and there's just nothing you can do about it.
Yeah,
We
I don't want just fans jumping all over me, but he's been doing that. And how many times did Mohammed Hijab just come out and have to make some clarifications for something outrageous that he said? It seems like that it's happening a little bit too often for a normal person.
Mhm. Yeah. So, in other words, ladies and gentlemen, what AP just pointed out here, Hijab's going to do something next week, and then he's going to apologize for it the week after that, and then he's going to do something the week after that, and then he's going to apologize for it the week after that, and he's just going to keep on doing it. But as time goes on, you think, oh, he's gonna have to apologize more and more. No, he'll have to apologize less and less. He'll do stupider and stupider stuff, but the more people he has rallied around him to mindlessly defend anything he does or says, the more difficult it is. And so this is the nightmare position of people like that Sajid, Knowledge North. These guys are in. They're sitting there looking at a bunch of. I can't call them. I can't just say a bunch of dumb people, because it's not just a bunch of dumb people. It's a bunch of people who like the chest thumping and stuff. And you could be intelligent and still like that. So I'm not sure exactly what to call it. They like this chest thumping Islam a lot. They like this. I'm humiliating you. I'm humiliating you. They like that. And so they're sitting there looking at this and looking at these guys who say the dumbest, most idiotic nonsense, but it's appealing because they're saying it. I'm crushing you. I'm humiliating you. They're looking at millions and millions of people in the ummah rally around this. And then if you're just sitting there, breaking down, calmly explaining Islam, like the way it used to happen, you'd go sit down and listen to your teacher, and he would teach you and so on. No one's interested in that anymore. And it's sort of a nightmare situation, for them.
He's a teacher too. He says, "I'm your teacher, boy."
Yeah, as long as I'm your teacher, boy. I'm your teacher. I will humiliate you. These are fun times. So anyway, guys, recently the clips there were. If you look at all the stuff Hijab comes up for now, once you see him on social media and you see everyone sharing a clip, it's never about him like saying something powerful or something like this. It's always, oh, here's the latest stupid thing he said.
It's powerful, you see. That's one.
So what was it, a couple weeks ago when he was in trouble with some Muslims for saying, what was he saying? That he would, that being a Christian is worse than being gay.
Yeah.
And then Ali Dawah upped the ante. And so Ali Dawah had to say, I would rather have 50 kids all gay than one kid who's a Christian. Which is interesting because, you read the Quran, and of course you have the condemnations of Christian beliefs, but Christians are called the people of the book, and we're held in this high place where we actually get to survive, as opposed to polytheists who would just be executed. But guess what? Gays would be executed. So Christians are allowed to live. Gays would be executed, but but they would rather all their kids be gay and executed than Christian, and I can't even figure it out. It's one big giant mess, ladies and gentlemen. It's one big giant mess. That's Dawa.
It is indeed.
All right, so now the most recent thing that Hijab is trending for is comparing. Most of the clip he's blasting away at Jesus in the New Testament. He's a little weakling, and he's not virtuous, and he's not strong like the Muslim Jesus. And this guy's funny. He even compares Jesus to Andrew Tate. Now, he's not saying Andrew Tate is all around in every way better than Jesus. He's just saying that Andrew Tate's more of a man than Jesus, because Jesus didn't go around fighting people or something like that. Anyway, we'll take a look at. We don't want to misrepresent anything, so we're actually gonna take a look at this.
He must be saying something very respectable and very good about Jesus, considering that he's a Muslim and yeah. We'll see.
That's the other thing that we keep pointing out. Their true colors keep coming out, right? Because I would say that Islam is actually an antichrist religion. It's not from God and focusing on worshiping God and honoring God. That's all a smokescreen. It's one guy, one 7th century guy was able to dupe everyone into just mindlessly supporting him. And so you've got Muslims, and they'll say, oh yeah, we respect Jesus more than you. We love Jesus more than you. And they will throw Jesus under the bus in a heartbeat if it's to defend Muhammad. They say, we respect all prophets. Oh, what? You're complaining about Muhammad having sex with a prepubescent 9-year-old? Well, Abraham and Isaac were all pedophiles too. And they'll just start insulting everyone, claiming that they respect these guys. And it's all, again, it's an antichrist religion. The real purpose is to undermine the gospel and undermine Jesus and lead people away from God, but to make them think they're actually serving God, while their entire religion is built around one guy, leading them away from the Almighty, like the Pied Piper.
That sounds pretty Islamophobic. But yeah.
Hey, come on, Ummah, follow me. I'm the Pied Piper. Mohammed, I'm the Pied Piper. And I'll show you how to burn. Come on. Anyway. So we're going to go ahead and watch this. I took kind of a long clip here. The one that's circulating is like 30 seconds or a minute or something like that. I took the long clip so we can see it in context. Let's take these first couple of super chats real quick, and then we'll jump right into this video. God Logic versus Muslim Cowboy and Hamza and Child. Logic still won. Yeah, I heard that going on. I'm actually going to be live with God Logic on Tuesday. We're going to go through some of his recent debate. He debated, what's that guy's name? I always, him and Hamza, there's a guy, his name's John at Speaker's Corner.
Other ginger. Yeah.
He looks, every time I saw them separately, I thought they were the same guy. I thought that was Hamza. And then I saw them standing side by side and like, wait, are these guys like twin brothers or something like that?
What is it with the gingers in Islam?
The gingers. Someone broke that down. You know what? It was Milo years ago. He was saying how gingers are so horribly mistreated that they get this psychological complex and stuff. And Islam comes along and says, you could be a Muslim and be good too. And they're like, what? We can too? And they're so messed up and traumatized and treated like garbage that they like converting. This man being more slippery. Yeah, Hijab is saying some really, really
messed up stuff.
It's pretty funny though. You guys should have seen the debate between God Logic, Rumzi, and Hamza. The Muslims were like shrieking children. Gosh, I'm going to have God Logic. I'm going to be with God Logic on Tuesday to go with some of his debate with that John dude on whether the Quran affirms the Bible. But then he just taking on multiple Muslims at the same time on Hamza's den. So I don't know. This is going to be rough. Muhammad is dead. Jesus is alive. Amen. Yep. Hijab left that part out. Hey guys, good to catch you live. AP, I'm happy for your wife. Please give her my best wishes. I pray for you. Must have bounced off you and hit your wife. So he was praying for you, but it must have bounced off you.
Thank you. Appreciate
We'll
it.
we'll direct to both of you. So this time he's going to be more.
It looks like that's what happened.
Like he's going to be more specific in his prayers. All right, guys, let's jump into this video. We've got Mohammed Hijab who's going to break down virtue ethics for us. Thank you, Mohammed Hijab. Let's see. And Mohammed Hijab. Here we go.
Consider the following. Yeah,
We will.
If you think about what the strongest emotion that we have in this world is, yeah, it's not actually lust, it's love.
It's love.
It's just, in my estimation, it's the strongest possible human emotion. Yeah.
Wait, love is the strongest. Ooh, brother. Ooh, little weakling. Brother, you're sitting at a table with a bunch of strong men and talking about love, brother. Ooh. What is that? No.
What's that, brother? Why is Mohammed Hijab talking about love? Why is he talking about love? He's always you're supposed to be tough. You're supposed to be strong.
Wait, and this is right after their other live stream where he's like, Sneako, did you know that being gay isn't all that bad? It's not as bad as being Christian. So you're kind of comfortable around Christians, right? And guess what? Being gay is not as bad. He's sitting there saying that to Sneako when they're in some hotel room or something like that.
Anyways, Sneako, let's continue our conversation about love and being gay. Let's talk a little bit more. I have some ideas, Sneako.
And now we're back. Mohammed Hijab's grooming techniques. By the way, I have to point out, have you noticed right after we started blasting them with the sources about Dihya al-Kalbi, and we started putting this information out there about Dihya al-Kalbi. So if anyone happens to be brand new here, Dihya al-Kalbi, one of Muhammad's companions, was the most attractive young man in all of Arabia. When he would walk into town, the ladies would all come out. The ladies of the town would all come out of their houses to come and stare at this young hot stud. Anyway, Muhammad started having little private meetings with Dihya al-Kalbi, and everyone understood, hey, when he's behind the curtain with Dihya al-Kalbi, don't interrupt them. They're in a very important meeting there. Anyway, then one day one of Muhammad's companions goes behind the curtain. Muhammad's asleep on Dihya's lap, right? And then Dihya says, yeah, I kind of can't get up because he's on my lap. Here, you come and let him be on your lap. And then so Dihya kind of eases his way on out, and the other companion sort of eases on in. And then Muhammad wakes up and he's like, ah, you're not Dihya, what is this? And the guy's like, yeah, Dihya just left. And Muhammad's like, no, that was the angel Gabriel. Yeah. Whenever I'm behind the curtain over here with Dihya al-Kalbi, that's me with the angel Gabriel back there. So he started telling all his companions that whenever you see him in his house or going behind a curtain with Dihya al-Kalbi, it's actually angel Gabriel. So we started pointing out this is looking awfully suspicious here. Awfully suspicious. And as soon as we start pointing out all these sources on this, hey, did you know that being gay is not all that bad? It's not all that bad, isn't it? Yeah. Hey, I'd rather have 50. I would rather have 50 gay kids than one Christian kid, yeah? Because being gay is all right. All right with us on Team Islam. We's all about being gay, yeah? These are fun times. All right. So we've got Macho Strong, Mohammed Hijab. The strongest emotion, Sneako, is love, especially love between two strong men.
And the strongest possible bond that you can have is love, okay? For many reasons which I'm not going to...
The strongest bond you can have with your mentor.
But he said for the strongest reasons, which I'm not going to mention or not going to go into. Is that what he said?
I'll mention those off camera.
Now, but here's the thing. For us, we have to go back to basics in a sense and ask the question, what is virtue? What is virtue? Many people have spoken about what virtue is, and everyone agrees that there's a list of virtues. Things like strength is a virtue, things like bravery is a virtue.
Respect.
I mean, they don't really put respect like that. But for example, compassion. They put compassion as a virtue, do you know what I mean? They put magnanimity as a virtue. They put generosity as a virtue. These are kinds of virtues. For us, virtues would be, the main virtues are the ones that are connected to God's attributes. So we believe in God's perfect attributes, right?
So the main virtues would be the ones that are connected to the attributes of Allah. And so if Allah has an attribute, then when you are kind of reflecting those attributes in as far as you can as a human being, then that would be a virtue. All right, got it. Got hijab.
For example, being a deceiver, for example, would be a very good one. This would be preferable because Allah is the best of deceivers.
He's the best who ever did it.
Insofar, being as deceptive as possible would be, in Islamic terms, a very virtuous thing. So I have to say, Mohammed Hijab is quite virtuous in that regard.
And guys, we're not even joking here. That if you look at the Muslim sources, where Muhammad says that war is deceit, that and keep in mind when they're talking about war, they're not just talking about war in like marching out against each other and you trick the army into thinking you went one way and you went a different way or something like that. They're at war with the world, according to Muhammad. According to Muhammad, it's a war against the world. And deception is your deception and terror are the main weapons that you have in this. Muhammad said they've been made victorious with terror, and he said war is deceit. So you're constantly trying to trick and deceive your enemies. And so that would be a virtue. That would be something good in Islam. And so when you see these dawah guys just constantly lying and making things up, oh, our book's been perfectly preserved. Oh, the Quran is filled with scientific miracles. And it's just like Mohammed Hijab, where he says something and later on he has to come out and apologize. It's once he's exposed for it. It's similar with the dawah arguments that they'll make up something. It's a complete lie. They try to catch people off guard with it. It works for a while because people haven't studied it. Then people do study it and they can expose it. And then Muslims come back and, oh, yeah, that was all based on deception. But here's our new argument that we just made up. And so not even joking when we say that from the perspective of someone like Mohammed Hijab, deception would be a virtue and you're imitating Allah.
Yes.
We believe Allah is all-knowing, all-seeing, all-hearing,
best of
all
deceivers.
powerful.
Best of deceivers.
He's loving. He's a loving God. We do believe that Allah
Really?
is a loving God. He's most merciful.
Which name is
He's
that?
compassionate, etc. The extent to which we as human beings can be virtuous is the extent to which we manifest the attributes in God in our own human way. Obviously, there's a world of difference between God's mercy and our mercy, but we can manifest a form of mercy. So for us to be virtuous, we are trying to manifest the attributes of God. Yeah? So,
all right, everyone got Mohammed Hijab's view of virtue here. Just want to make sure everyone's on the page because that's he's setting that up, and then he goes into his explanation of why Jesus in the Bible isn't nearly as virtuous as Jesus in Islam, or even as Andrew Tate in certain ways.
when you realize that purpose, that okay, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمِ الْأَخْلَاقِ, that I have only been sent to perfect good character. I've only been sent to make you virtuous, essentially.
And to bang your daughters, but that's what helps you become virtuous, because I'm training you to mindlessly obey everything I say. And that's why I revealed in Surah 4, verse 65, that you have to submit to all of my decisions, and you can only submit to Allah by obeying me. Now give me your daughters.
No, I have to correct you there, David. This is a gross misrepresentation of
it's
Muhammad
gross, all right.
And of Muhammad's intention to have sex with all the daughters of people. It is his mission to come and spread the religion and to fight the people until they testify that there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is his messenger. Mm-hmm. However, to also go around and have sex with as many women as possible would be a favor a favor given to him by Allah, so that everything is easier for him, so that he has no hardship. That is what the Quran says. So Allah wants to make things easier for Muhammad, which is why He gives him lots of wives and lets him have 11, 9 at one time,
Yeah.
plus concubines, have sex with all of them, and so on. This is Allah's favor for Muhammad. This is how great Allah is.
Well, keep in mind, hypocrisy is a virtue in Islam, right? So, guys, keep in mind, you're imitating Muhammad, and you imitate Muhammad because he's like the best, the most virtuous of people in Islam. And that's a guy who walks out to his followers, hey, everyone, you get 4. You can all have 4. You can have up to 4 wives, 1, 2, 3, or 4. Those are your options, 1, 2, 3, or 4. Except me, I get 9. You get 4, I get more. It's just funny having discussions on morality and virtue, when kind of like the ultimate fundamental principle in ethics is don't be a hypocrite. Don't be a hypocrite. And Muhammad is like the gold standard of going around saying, here's the rule for you guys, me doesn't apply. Here's the rule for you guys, me doesn't apply. Here's the rule for you Christians, doesn't apply to Muslims. Here's the rule for you Jews, doesn't apply to us Muslims. And even the rules that apply to the Muslims don't apply to me. This is like the Captain Virtue, according to Mohammed Hijab. Guys, but that's actually important. It matters who you worship. It matters who you worship and who you obey as far as delivering you the revelation. If you're dealing with someone, a God, if you're worshiping a God who brags about being the best of deceivers, and you are serving a prophet who says war is deceit and for whom hypocrisy was just built into the system, you're going to end up with exactly what you see here from Mohammed Hijab. Complete deception, complete nonsense, and so on. But powerful.
Question of, for example, because we mentioned this, Andrew Tate and others, you said, you've got to love the Prophet more than you've got to love your own parents. Someone would ask the question, why should you? Why should you love the Prophet more than you love your own parents?
Because
the reason why we would say that is because the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is the best manifestation of human virtue that the world's ever seen.
Yes.
And by the way, you can...
Why should you love Muhammad more than you love your own family? He says, because Muhammad is so virtuous. The guy who had sex with a prepubescent 9-year-old girl, the guy who saw the wife of his own adopted son practically naked and lusted after her so much that his adopted son divorced her so that Muhammad could have her.
Wow, that's so virtuous, man.
Super virtuous prophet who, in order to justify his marriage to his adopted son's wife, in order to justify that, abolishes adoption in Islam. No more adoption in Islam. You could take care of, you could feed an orphan if you want, but you do not adopt an orphan into your family. Why? Why was that? It was all to justify Muhammad taking the wife of his own adopted son. This is a guy who bought, owned, sold, and traded black African slaves. This is a guy who tortured a man, had a man tortured and murdered to find out where the guy was hiding his money. And then Muhammad took the guy's wife and went and banged her. This is a guy who got caught. Keep in mind, this perfect example of virtue. This guy got caught having sex with one of his slave girls in his wife Hafsa's bed. So Muhammad's having sex with his slave girl in Hafsa's bed. They understood that he's allowed to have sex with his slave girls. They didn't like it happening in their own beds and him rolling around with some teenage girl sex slave in their own beds. So he gets caught. Wives complain. Muhammad swears an oath. This paragon of virtue swears an oath. I swear by the great God Allah, I will never have sex with that girl again. Then comes back and starts having sex with her again. And when they say, hey, how are you having sex with this girl again? Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told me to break my oath. It was the opening verses of Surah 66.
Sex with that woman.
I will not have sex with that girl again. This is the king of virtue that you should love more than your own mother or daughter because of his virtue. A guy who will swear by Allah and then break it and say, yeah, Allah told me to go ahead and break my oath. There are all these passages in the hadiths about him like cursing his own companions, and then he like has to say, don't worry, if I curse you and it turns out I'm wrong, then Allah will turn the curse into a blessing. So this is like, on what planet is this guy virtuous, even in a normal sense, let alone the king of all virtue? How? On what planet? Hijab doesn't explain. Why? He knows he's talking on Sneako's live stream. He's talking to a bunch of young, stupid, just complete imbeciles. And he knows that these guys are kind of the, yeah, we're strong. We respect strong. And so he's trying to groom the entire community all at once. Let's just say it that way.
Huh. That's interesting.
Oh, hang on. Got a comment about you here. Let me just scroll through these couple real quick. Hijab is trying to find his Dia in Sneako. That's from Goda. Hey, Sneako, you're very attractive. Some would say you may be as attractive as Dia Al-Kalbi. Want me to tell you about Dia Al-Kalbi? Hey, thanks everyone for helping spread awareness about International Apostasy Day for ex-Muslims. Great effort, team. We need more ex-Muslims. And Mohammed Hijab is going to help us. Watching you live for the first time at 2 a.m. with my 2-day-old newborn. Any advice for a first-time dad?
Whoa.
Yes. It gets easier. Gets easier. And it's fun. And it's worth it.
It does get easier. And it's a very, very, with all the difficulties that it has, it's a very amazing opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's the second time or the first time, it is really something worth appreciating in the moment and making great use of.
Mm-hmm. And
it's fantastic.
And you say, first time dad, some additional advice. Have another one about 2 years later. Do that. You want to keep them close together. Then they grow up being good buddies.
And then have another one 2 years after that until you are at about 10.
Yes.
Keep going.
Yeah, do that. APM, genuinely curious. Are you considered ethnically white European as a Turk? What are you? It's
a funny thing because when you ask that, it is kind of looked at within the context of what the U.S. describes as white and non-white. And according to the U.S. Census, I think the designation is basically, or the definition of white is the people of Europe and the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. So anyone from that region is considered white by American standards, by U.S. standards. But you see that people usually don't call everyone who comes from that region white. They often refer to people from that region as from the Middle East.
We say white.
White. They refer to them as brown. So I don't know, but in a non-American context, it really just depends. The funny thing is that this whole white or black or whatever issue is rather a social construct which has no real existence. It is just a vague way of describing things. But yeah, by U.S. definitions, I would be considered white. But it doesn't make much sense because what? Because
don't say that. That's the only reason they don't ban you on YouTube is because they look at you and they say, "Oh, he's Turkish. We'll let him slide."
I'm always conflicted. Like when they ask me, I put I don't know, white and other. That's what I usually do. But it's because it's funny. Turkish people are not even really fitting into the whole.
I thought you were about to say Turkish people aren't really people. I thought you were about to say that.
Well, Turkish people aren't really people. Because Turkish people are kind of really standing out as.
I thought you were about to say people are really stupid. Like I've heard so much negative stuff from you about Turkish people that every time you're about to say something, I think you're about to say something really messed up.
Yeah, Turkish people don't really fit into the whole thing because it's like Middle Eastern people, and the Turks are not supposed to be there. They just kind of came
See,
in there.
Turks aren't
I don't
supposed to
know.
be.
Turks aren't supposed to exist.
Yeah,
But yeah, so
you heard it here.
if you ask from an American perspective, there'll be that. Yeah. I don't know.
Sneako with Mohammed, my bad. It's the tablets I'm on. Oh yeah, it's the tablets I'm on. That's what it has to say. Yeah, what tablets were you on in the last live stream, Mohammed Hijab, where you're cracking up, laughing, talking about what was he talking about? Guy's mom, someone's mom.
Alex Jones.
Oh, Alex Jones's mom. Yeah.
What have you done?
What
What
tablets
have
were
what
you on?
has the Jones family done? What have you achieved? Tell me about your mom. Tell
Yeah.
me about your mom.
Tell me. What about your mom? That's a good nickname for him, Mohammed. My bad.
Yeah.
Moja.
Black Angel pointed out the Turks are actually wolves. Yeah, there is a thing.
That's
There is
true.
a distinction.
Yeah.
So some
Someone humped a
Turks
wolf.
are actually descendants from wolves because there was a wolf that had sex with a bunch of or with one Turkic person apparently a long time ago. That's how the Turks came into existence. But there's also the other side of it. While some of them are some of them are wolves, the other part of them also consists of otters. You know, the otters, because they mated with otters and became the ottermans, and became these huge sea creatures that came out of the sea that are half otter, half human. That's how they invaded Europe and all that. So Turks
They
are
can
a
swim.
mix of otters, humans, and wolves.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Mojab is so full of BS. Can't believe he's in the UK. Turin Shroud, real though. We will be taking a look at the Turin Shroud.
Inshallah.
I'm glad I'm not Muslim because my grandfather was adopted. I would not be here. Thanks be to Jesus, the real truth. Yes, it's actually messed up because I will give credit where credit is due. When Islam says, don't practice female infanticide and stuff like that, I can say, good, that is a good teaching. Good, do that. Yeah, do that. Follow that advice, and don't kill baby girls because you don't want baby girls and so on. I can look at that, but then I look around and say, we can't adopt children because Muhammad had to have his adopted son's wife. It's like, okay, this is terrible and awful.
Yes.
AP, why don't you have the turkey flag on your ex bio? That's a good question.
Why would I don't even like Turkey.
Do they have a wolf as their flag? React to Andrew Wilson debate where he argued Muhammad needed to have a micro-wang not to harm a 9-year-old. We might have to take a look at that just because so many people are talking about it.
Yeah, people mentioned that. It just makes me not want to watch it.
Yeah, it kind of makes me not want to watch it either. But what do you mean? I thought David was black with those cool beats. Allah must have tricked me. Yeah, some of the Hebrew Israelites think that too. Turks, the original furries. That's messed up. And here we go. Just became Christian and my whole family is Sikh anyway to help them and my friendship and my friends. 90% of them are Muslim. Find the truth. They won't watch your vids. Yeah, Sheep Squad.
I wish your family all good health, all the best, and that they recover soon.
Let's see. I'm sharing a video right now. You can check it out later. Share a video giving my overall approach on these kinds of situations that you're in. Of course, it's good to get other people's advice as well. But I'm sharing a video right now. Save that and check it out later. Made it for exactly this sort of situation. And that's one more. Oh, what is this? Another from GoatHub. AP's ancestors, turkey, wolf, otter people. Pretty fun. That is true. All right, back to hijab. Explain hijab, this pillar of virtue. Constantly apologizing for his lack of self-control, blaming drugs that he's on, and so on. Here we go. He's breaking down virtue for us, ladies and gentlemen.
You can prove this. Like, let's take 2 or 3 examples, and I use this with one person. I was just speaking to a Christian person in the park. One virtue that everyone agrees with, I'll just give you one, is bravery. Every single person agrees that bravery is a virtue. It's mentioned in the Nicomachean Ethics of Aristotle. It's a virtue. Now look at the New Testament description of Jesus Christ, the New Testament description of Jesus Christ, what courage did that person actually exhibit? We have here the character of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In 10 years, he was involved in 19 wars himself on the front line, in the battlefield. He never ran away from battle.
Is he trying to say that the New Testament Jesus didn't show bravery?
Yeah, he's saying that, or he, to clarify, later he talks about moral bravery. But here he's saying that Muhammad went out and fought in battles, and he's saying Muhammad was always on the front lines and so on. I'm going to have to object to that. But Muhammad's always on the front lines and so on. And Jesus in the New Testament isn't. And so Muhammad's brave and Jesus isn't.
Muhammad was once hit by an arrow, apparently, allegedly, and it harmed his tooth, wasn't it? And it was like a very, very dramatic moment. They were all hiding him, and he was hit, and they were like, "Oh no, oh no! He hit his face. He lost a tooth. Oh no!" Mm-hmm. And apparently, it was very traumatic for him as well. It was very, very, very traumatic for him. He was being surrounded with an army, having people take care of all your needs. Commanding people around, saying, "Hey, this and this guy is bad mouthing me. How about you go and kill him? How about you go and take care of them? Hey, I don't like this one building. How about go destroy it?" That is not bravery. Mm-hmm. That's not bravery. There are lots of people who would do that. That is not bravery. If you have people that are powerful, and you are in charge of them, you are in control of them, and they do whatever you want. And you even reprimand them because that one time they didn't get up and kill this one guy that you clearly didn't like, which is something that happened to Muhammad. That is not bravery. There was a moment where, according to the hadiths, I forgot which of the Sahaba or which of the people that was, but upon return to Mecca, Muhammad arrives, and this one guy comes and apologizes to him and repents and wants to convert to Islam. But Muhammad really didn't like him because he was such a terrible person to him in the past. But he didn't say anything, and he just accepted the guy and let him go. Once the guy left, Muhammad then turns to his men and says, "Why didn't one of you guys get up and kill him?"
That was Abdullah ibn Abi Sar. That was
okay,
that was for everyone. He was a massive embarrassment because he was one of Muhammad's scribes, and eventually concluded that Muhammad couldn't be a prophet because Muhammad was letting him change the revelations to make them better. And Abdullah ibn Abi Sar would blurt something out. So blessed be Allah, the best to create. Muhammad would say, "Oh yeah, put that in there." And then Abdullah eventually concludes, "Hey, if this guy's a prophet, then I'm a prophet because I'm putting words in the Quran too. So I would have to be a prophet. I know I'm not a prophet, therefore he's not a prophet." And he bolts. And then when they conquer Mecca, they get this guy. And the story is what AP points out there. The guy, "Oh, please forgive me. Please don't execute me. Blah, 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 blah.
Please accept me, bro. Come on, man. It was just a prank."
And Muhammad just sits there. And then, after he leaves, and Muhammad's like, "What? Why didn't you kill the guy? I was waiting for you." And they're like, we didn't know what you wanted us to do.
Why didn't you do something with your eyes? Why didn't you? And he says, a prophet doesn't do that. A prophet doesn't point with his eyes like that.
Yeah, but Hijab is saying Hijab's going to go on to say that Muhammad's always in these battles and so on, and he's always on the front lines. And you just look at this. So this is Sahih Muslim 2470. Anas reported that Allah's messenger took hold of his sword on the day of Uhud. So there you have it. Muhammad ready to start swinging. He's going into battle. He took hold of his sword on the day of Uhud and said, "Who would take it from me?" What's he challenge? Is he challenging someone to take it from him? Saying like, "Ha, who can take the sword? No one. From my cold dead hand you can take it. Ha ha, I'm so strong." Let's see. Who would take it from me? All the persons stretched their hands saying, "I would do it, I would do it." He, Allah's apostle, said, "Who would take it in order to fulfill its rights?" Then the people withdrew their hands. Simak bin Karasha Abu Dujana said, "I am here to take it and fulfill its rights." He took it and struck the heads of the polytheists. What just happened? Muhammad said, here's my sword. Who wants to go out and use my sword on my behalf in this battle? One guy said, I'll do it. And then this guy goes out and uses Muhammad's sword in battle. And as far as the rights of the sword, I forget which, it's another hadith, but Muhammad said in a different hadith, he said, its right is that you should strike so many people with it that it bends. That it bends. So here we have Muhammad saying, hey, someone else go out and fight in my place. Got that? And here's Bukhari. Sahih al-Bukhari 2797. Narrated Abu Huraira. The Prophet said, by him in whose hands my life is, were it not for some men amongst the believers who dislike to be left behind me, and whom I cannot provide with means of conveyance, I would certainly never remain behind any Sariya, army unit, setting out in Allah's cause. By him in whose hands my life is, I would love to be martyred in Allah's cause, and then get resurrected, and then get martyred, and then get resurrected again, and then get martyred, and then get resurrected again, and then get martyred.
And then get resurrected again, and then get martyred.
No. He didn't say it that many times. Let's be realistic here, AP. But guys, look at what he's saying here. Were it not for some men among the believers who don't like to be left behind when I go out to battle. So I could go out to battle, but I lack the means of conveyance for everyone. I can't bring everyone. And since I can't bring everyone, I have to leave some behind. And since I have to leave some behind, and I have no way of getting them to the battle, since they don't like being left behind with me going out to battle, therefore, I have to stay back too. I have to stay back too, because they're going to feel bad if I'm out fighting and they have to stay at home. So I'm going to stay at home too. But just so you know, I swear, just like I swore that I would stop having sex with that slave girl, and it was totally false. But I swear, by him in whose hands my life is, I would love to be martyred. Guys, I would really love to be martyred. I'd love to go out fighting with you. I really, really would. I would love to go out there and fight, but I have to stay behind. I have to stay back here because people would feel bad if I can't get them to the battle, but I go out to the battle. So I'll just stay back here and bang my wives while you guys go out and fight for me.
Bang my wives.
Got that, everyone? And I'm saying that because those sources that I just quoted, they're going to completely contradict what Mohammed Hijab is saying that Muhammad did. He's going to say Muhammad was always in the battles and he's always in the front lines and so on. And you see in the hadith, hey, someone want to take my sword and go out and fight for me? There's another hadith where Muhammad puts on two coats of armor and stuff like that because he's so worried about being hit and so on. Anyway, all right, I backed this.
I just want to go out there banging my wives.
I backed this thing up a little bit like Muhammad with Diha al-Kalbi so we can see what he said.
Aristotle, it's a virtue. Now look at the New Testament description of Jesus Christ. The New Testament description of Jesus Christ. What courage did that person actually exhibit? We have here the character of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
What courage did Jesus?
All right.
Simply going to endure the worst punishment anyone could endure, crucifixion, for the sake of others. What courage did this man? What courage does the man who throws himself on a grenade to save all those around him? What courage does that man have? Should have ran away and hid behind the lines like Muhammad.
Oh, where does the Jesus in the New Testament go around massacring people and taking sex slaves?
He's a weakling.
Where does he do that? He's a weakling. I mean, you have to just, as an observer from the outside, right, who is not a Christian, you could look at the narrative of Jesus in the New Testament, and you could conclude, you would probably not conclude that this person doesn't have courage, right? He is. Throughout the entire narrative, he is repeatedly threatened. He, in advance, says that he is going to be handed over to the goyim. By the way, that's what it says here. I think the gropers should pay attention sometimes to the narrative and the language used in the New Testament, because apparently this is a word that they really don't like, and they think Jews are using this, they're evil. So he's going to be handed over to the Gentiles, and they are going to have their way with him, and he's going to be killed. and his blood. His blood is a very, very significant role. He advances this. He announces this in advance. He is repeatedly prompted to look for a way out, even when he is held by the authorities and put before all the people. And he repeatedly simply sticks to the mission of going to the cross and finally dying. Despite all the threats, even way before that, he keeps on preaching and keeps on preaching and keeps on preaching, doesn't back down. Are you really going to tell me that this is not courage? What is? What is courage? Is courage being threatened in Mecca, allegedly, and then fleeing, right? Fleeing from the back door of your house, fleeing to a different place to escape the wrath of the polytheists, and then to in the safety of a different place, which Jews built, by the way, to there build your Islamic State, and then attack those polytheists once you are larger in number. Is fleeing from your enemies, fleeing to safety, is that courage? Because that's what Muhammad did.
And I'm sitting there thinking, Knowledge North actually brings this up, because Hijab eventually, in this clip, he's going to say that when Jesus was here on earth, he's not conquering, but in the future, according to Christians, he's going to judge the world. And so when you're super powerful, then you judge the world, but when you're not, then you don't fight. This makes you a pathetic little weakling. Knowledge North, who's a Muslim. Knowledge North is a Muslim. He's friends with Sajid, but he points out that's exactly the criticism that people use against Muhammad. That when he's outnumbered in Mecca, he doesn't fight, and then once he has an army, then he has to subjugate everyone. In other words, the exact objection that Mohammed Hijab uses against Jesus is perfectly played out in the life of Muhammad. And he doesn't get it, and he probably does get it, but he just doesn't care, because he knows he knows who he's imitating. He knows whose virtues he's imitating here in deceiving people. Let's see here.
Years, he was involved in 19 wars himself on the front line.
On the front line.
In the battlefield. He never ran away from battle. There's not one narration that said he ran away from battle. He was always in the front telling other people to fight with him. Versus
he just said he was always on the front. He just said it. Guys, I put the source on the screen. Muhammad took hold of his sword on the day of Uhud and said, "Who would take it from me?" All the persons stretched their hands out. "I would do it. I would do it." He, Allah's apostle, said, "Who would take it in order to fulfill his rights?" Then the people withdrew their hands. One guy says, "I'm here to take it and fulfill its rights." He took it and struck the heads of the polytheists. Muhammad gives his sword to someone else to go out and fight for him. This is the guy who's always on the front line saying, "Come up here and join me."
Someone, according to their narrative, and to stress, we don't believe in this narrative, yeah? Who was whipped and beaten and this and that, and there's no evidence of that level of bravery. Jesus versus Muhammad, Jesus of the New Testament, the false narrative of Jesus, versus Muhammad according to our scriptures. Which of the two manifests virtue, the virtue of bravery more? You cannot conclude if you're...
I don't understand. I don't understand that part. I don't understand what's going on.
He's saying he's laying out virtue, the virtue of bravery specifically, and saying if you compare Muhammad of the Muslim sources with Jesus in the Christian sources, Muhammad is brave and Jesus is not. Therefore, Muhammad is superior in virtue, at least the virtue of bravery, and therefore he's a good pattern of conduct, and Jesus isn't. That's what he's saying.
I get that part. I get that part,
don't.
but the thing that he just said about Jesus being whipped and tortured and all that, is he saying that is that depiction of Jesus is not brave?
Yeah, that's not brave, especially when Jesus said that's what's going to happen, and then he went up and it happened.
Mohammed Hijab, let's test this.
Yeah.
Let's test this. Come visit me let's make an agreement in advance that you will fully submit to all that, and then let's subject you. I will happily subject you to everything that Jesus was subjected to according to the narrative, and let's see if you think that is bravery or not.
And by
Let's
the
see.
way, look, I mean, seriously, little side note here. Think about who's talking here. Mohammed Hijab, who's always, oh, we should defeat the Jews. We should defeat the Jews. And he's sitting here eating at this fancy restaurant while his fellow Muslims are dying, fighting the Jews and fighting everyone else. And he's sitting here at this, a very nice restaurant. I don't know where that is, but the restaurant looks banging. And he's sitting there with Ali Dawa and Sneako and talking about how Jesus, it wasn't brave, and that Muhammad was, and Mohammed Hijab imitates Muhammad's bravery. And what's he doing? Yeah, he's sitting here eating while other people are out there doing the fighting for him. Perfect illustration of virtue in Islam. So anyway, the point there, ladies and gentlemen, is again, hypocrisy is built into Islam. He's sitting there condemning Jesus as not being brave because he doesn't actually go out and start swinging a sword. Meanwhile, Mohammed Hijab, what does he do? He sits in the comfort of his own places, homes, who knows how many, because we don't know how many wives he has, in the UK, talking trash about everyone else. And running from, challenging people to fight, and then when they agree to fight, he backs down like a little coward. Challenging people to debate, and then when they accept, he backs down like a little coward. And he's talking about virtue, this guy. It's pathetic.
Being honest, on a historical level, that Jesus in the New Testament, which we don't believe is the true Jesus, we believe that's a fabricated version of Jesus, that
even though our God and our prophet affirmed that the scriptures that the Jews and Christians have as the inspired, preserved, authoritative word of God, but we don't actually believe what our God and our prophets say. We believe what makes us feel good. Got that, AP?
Yeah.
So guys, just to be clear, the Quran affirms the inspiration, the preservation, and the authority of scriptures that Christians have. And Allah in the Quran said that he helped the true followers of Jesus until they became uppermost, which is why early Muslims even affirmed Paul as a true apostle. There's no way this guy would have rose to prominence when Allah says he's helping the true followers. There's no way he could have been this prominent when Allah is deciding who to protect here. And so that's what you find. And then, but later on, these guys realized that the Quran does not line up with the Christian scriptures. And they say, our scripture has been corrupted and Allah and Muhammad are just stupid and wrong. But anyway, he's blasting away at the Jesus we read about in the Gospels that his God affirms as the word of God. And he's insulting the Jesus that we find there. Just keep in mind, the Quran orders Christians. It's a flat out command. It's a flat out command. Surah 5, verse 47 of the Quran orders Christians to judge by the gospel. Surah 5, verse 68 says that Christians have no ground to stand upon unless we stand fast by the Torah and the gospel and all the revelation that has come to us. That's what Allah says. We have no ground to stand upon unless we stand upon the gospel. And Hijab is sitting here insulting the Jesus that we read about in the gospel that we have. And his followers don't care. His followers love it. It's Islam.
Mojab,
that
sitting in a
Jesus
restaurant.
manifests
That's why.
the virtue of bravery more than Muhammad. There's
What
no
about
chance.
speaking the truth, getting nailed to the cross?
Yeah, so
Aren't these virtuous?
Look, Sneako even jumped in there and said, what about speaking the truth, getting nailed to the cross? And, I guess he's talking about bravery, speaking the truth in a context where it could get you in trouble. And getting nailed to a cross, knowing that you're going to get nailed to a cross. In other words, you have Jesus actually saying this is what's going to happen, and then it does it. But even if you didn't have like divine foreknowledge, or even if you didn't have divine foreknowledge, didn't know what's going to happen, just messing around in a place that's controlled by the Roman Empire and ticking people off, that's a one-way ticket to the cross back then. And yet he's the scared one. But Sneako even jumps in there with, what do you mean here?
the true Jesus, we believe that's a fabricated version of Jesus. That Jesus manifests the virtue of bravery more than Muhammad. There's
What
no
about
chance.
speaking the truth, getting nailed to the cross?
Yeah, so
Aren't these virtuous?
no, surely that's what you call moral virtue. There's a difference. Moral bravery. There's a difference between moral bravery and physical bravery. But then, if you want to amalgamate all types
What do you mean physical bravery? Facing torture and death on behalf of others. What the heck do you mean by physical? It doesn't get any more. It doesn't get any braver than that. Again, the guy who says, "Hey, they just threw a grenade over there. Let me run and jump on it to save everyone around me." Mohammed Hijab, I mean, they give people the Congressional Medal of Honor for doing that. It's the highest award for bravery that you can possibly get. And Hijab saying, "No, if you do that, you're a dumb loser and a coward, because you should be going around fighting like me in here as I'm fighting this sushi or whatever the heck I'm eating."
This just makes me think of. I watched the movie The Passion of the Christ several times.
Several times.
Some people say it has too much focus on the bloody and suffering part and all that. However, I'm just imagining Mohammed Hijab now going through all the torture and going through all the mistreatment and being put on a cross, having nails driven through his hands and body parts. And then you should ask him, "So what do you think? Do you think this was an act of bravery?" And he's probably going to be like, no, I don't think so. I don't think so.
No,
That wasn't brave. No.
Bravery is sitting here shoveling French fries in my face with Ali Dawa and Sneako. That's real bravery.
If you give me some sausage, then maybe that's going to be brave. But
That's real brave. That's super brave. Guys, like,
get me a drink. That's brave.
being completely serious here, and I'm not talking to all you Muslims, because there are some Muslims who are watching this going, this is stupid and insane, and what a hypocrite this guy is. But for those of you who are hijab fans, I mean, how do you sit here and watch a guy who's saying Jesus wasn't brave because he didn't exhibit physical bravery, even though he went to the cross for the sake of other people? But that's not brave. That's not brave. Only going out and fighting is brave, and that's why we imitate Muhammad. And he's sitting here in a restaurant. He's sitting here in a restaurant, refusing to fight anyone ever. Don't know what you do. In other words, guys, you are following an obvious hypocrite according to his own standards. I think his standards are stupid and ridiculous. And he's like twisting virtue ethics into something that somehow fits Islam when it wouldn't. Matter of fact, we can do an entire show one day going through Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics and seeing how Muhammad would fare using that as a standard, since that's what Mohammed Hijab brought up. But I don't know. It's like built into dawah. We are here to deceive gullible people, and yes, there are going to be smart people who catch on, but who cares if most of the people have been deceived by what I just said because they're stupid? Then good day for dawah. Good day for dawah.
You said it wrong though. You said Nicomachean. You're supposed to say Nicomachean. That's what he said. That's how he pronounced it. So, but who am I supposed to believe, Mohammed Hijab or you?
Mohammed Hijab, obviously.
So, any definition of bravery you like.
By the way, I'd have to look at the Greek. I've heard people say that both, like in philosophy classrooms. They say Nicomachean ethics and Nicomachean ethics.
No, he said Nika. He said Nicomachean.
Oh, did he? I've never heard that one.
Yeah.
That's not one. That was not
There is no difference of opinion that bravery is. Essentially, most of the definitions would say, like, you have fear, but you act even despite the fear. Like, let me give you an interesting definition of virtue, of bravery, according to Castamato, who was Mike Tyson's trainer. He said the difference between the brave man and the hero is not that the brave man doesn't feel fear and that the hero does. He said both of them feel fear, but one of them acts upon it and the other one doesn't. That's an interesting modern definition of bravery, but it's in line with the classical ones. What I'm trying to say is that.
So now you have Castamato, and guys, Castamato did say that. Castamato did say that. That's Mike Tyson's original trainer, and that's a guy who got Mike Tyson out of, I don't know if he was in an orphanage or whatever, but that's a guy who took care of him.
Well, Jesus wasn't afraid, so therefore he wasn't brave. So.
When you're involved in, and this is usually used as an argument against Islam, They usually say that the fact that the Prophet ﷺ engaged in so much war showed the kind of barbaric nature of the Prophet and all that kind of thing. In fact, this is ample evidence of his bravery. And if you want to
I would say this is a big misrepresentation. It wasn't just Muhammad who was barbaric; it was also his followers and even to this day, many people who advocate on his behalf. So I wouldn't restrict that just to the Prophet Muhammad. This is a very, very gross misrepresentation again on Mohammed Hijab's behalf. And he was not just barbaric for all the fighting and all that. He was also barbaric for. Being very, very uncivilized, being very unable to be around little children and women, having to have sex with everything that walks, wanting to kill people, wanting everything destroyed that he doesn't like, and so on. So, yeah. If you think that it is a good quality, then go ahead. Did you know that there is a second Passion of the Christ coming? Apparently, it's in the making. Somebody in the chat just said it.
Oh yeah,
it's about the resurrection.
Oh yeah. They've been talking about that for years. It's interesting if they finally make it.
Apparently it's coming out in 2025.
Huh.
But it's kind of...
That'd be dope.
I'm kind of worried about it because it's Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
It's one thing to watch something from him about, the life.
Mm-hmm.
But then to watch something about this from Mel Gibson, who happens to be a little bit mentally unstable. I don't know, man.
He is, but yeah. See, here's what's weird, and this is like with Kanye. The people who are a bit mentally unstable, they're usually outside the box type guys, and they can come up with if they can control it, they can come up with super cool stuff. And then if the crazy part takes over, then they get into all kinds of trouble and stuff. And looks like with Kanye, looks like it's actually like the crazy is completely taking over. And so, yeah. Hey, Kanye, you need to go down and hang out with Mel Gibson because he can help you try to control the crazy part and use it to your advantage and not to like destroying yourself.
I wouldn't want to see that because I think the one major outcome of that I see is hating Jews.
No. That was when he was crazy, man. What are you even talking about?
They're both crazy.
That was when he was crazy and drunk. Come on, leave the guy alone. Stop picking on him. Hey, it's interesting. I watched the Passion of the Christ with Shabir Ali. That's the only time I've ever seen it. Wait, no. I watched it. That was the second time I watched it. I went and watched it with a group of students. We were all students at ODU, and then I went and saw it with Shabir Ali because he was coming to town to debate Mike Licona, and I messaged him. I was like, hey, the Passion of the Christ just came out, and it might come up in the debate since you guys are debating Jesus, death and resurrection. So if you're not going to see it and you want to see it beforehand in case it comes up, then I'll take you to see it. So we did that. But it was when I was watching the movie, at first they pull out rods and they start beating Jesus with rods. And I'm like, oh, this is all wrong. This is wrong. They would use the flagrum, right? That was these leather thongs with chunks of bone and metal. And it was a purpose. Like what's the purpose of beating someone with rods, right? There was a purpose to the scourging. And that was, they didn't want young, strong, military age guys kicking and fighting and screaming with them while they're trying to hold them down and nail them to a cross. So part of the purpose of the scourging was to weaken you so that by the time they're nailing you to the cross, you're like, please get this over with. Please get this over with. Please just hurry up and get this over with. The beating was called the half death because guys would be half dead by the time it was finished and so on. Anyway, so at first they're hitting him with rods, and I was like, this isn't right. This isn't what I've read. And all of a sudden, then they pull out the flagrums with chunks of metal, and then it starts ripping flesh open, and it gets all really horrible, but definitely more historically accurate. But if you willingly face that, ladies and gentlemen, you're not strong according to Mohammed Hijab. You're a little weakling.
No, you're a weakling.
This is with any other religious figure. There's no other religious figure that you have historical evidence of that manifests that one virtue, which, by the way, Aristotle said is the mother of all virtues because without it, no other virtues can stand, more than Prophet Muhammad. Then we move on to another example.
No one exhibited bravery more than Muhammad, who was always on the front lines, unless you actually read our sources in which you find that Muhammad is putting on multiple coats of armor to protect himself, giving his sword to someone else to go out and fight with it, staying behind and making the excuse of, well, I don't want to, if I don't want to leave other guys behind because then they'll be sad that I'm going out and fighting, so I'm going to stay behind too. I'm going to stay behind in the battle too. You guys go out and fight. That's what you actually read in the sources. Hijab just flat out lied because he's read all these sources. He knows it. He knows he just lied. He knows he just flat out lied. He knows it 100%. He knows that he just lied to all these guys. And it's good because that's a virtue for him. That's good because that's a virtue. But now he's going on to something else. What's that?
I can think of different individuals, like, for example, Alexander the Great, who is also mentioned in the Quran, of course, as Dhul Qarnayn, and who was apparently guided by Allah. He was probably much better than Muhammad in that regard. Many other people, I don't know. Genghis Khan here. Genghis Khan.
Well, he's talking about the religious figures and the ones that we actually have. Yeah, and as long as you just flat out lie about Muhammad and you leave out the parts about him staying back and having other guys go out and fight for him, you leave out the parts about him gearing up with multiple suits of armor to protect himself, you leave out the parts about him giving his sword to someone else and saying, you go out and fight for me. If you leave out all this stuff and you just go with what Mohammed Hijab lies, then you get this guy who's just supremely brave, and he's just the standard of bravery. He's the perfect example, and that's why we follow him. And
well, there's one thing you're forgetting, which is that both Alexander the Great and Genghis Khan were, within their religious context, actually religious figures.
Yeah, so in your face, Mohammed Hijab.
Yeah,
that's right.
You see?
That's right. Alexander the Great did go around getting worshipped all over the place. So
yeah, he was considered divine. He was considered a god. And Genghis Khan was considered holy in the Mongol mythology that was developing at the time, and some people will still revere him as such. So yeah.
So
how about that?
yes, but I mean, it's just hilarious. So what he's saying about Muhammad being the only person that we have historical information on in a religious context, being this super brave warrior, completely false based on what AP just said. And if you read the Muslim sources, Hijab's description of Muhammad is nonsense. And this is what you do. Why? You're talking to Sneako, who does not know, and you're talking to Sneako's fans who do not know any of this. Therefore, you can say whatever you want, and they're ignorant enough that you can deceive them. And that's a virtue. And guys, just keep in mind, he's praised, you're not really brave. You're not really brave unless you march out and you stand on the front lines in the battlefield. When has Hijab done this? When? How many wars are going on? How many wars are Muslims fighting in various places of the world? Which one is Mohammed Hijab going out to join and take part in? What is he? He stays behind while others go out and fight. And he's talking about bravery. What does he want? He wants the reputation of bravery without actually being as brave as he proclaims. Where's he getting that from? He follows the example of Muhammad.
That's what they do.
Let's take a couple super chats, and then we'll jump back into this, because he's coming out with a second example. What's that?
Stepping into grace made a good point and said King David too. See, you even have biblical figures.
Well, I think Hijab is saying historical. So yeah, we have that in the Bible and the Quran, but he's trying to narrow it down to where Muhammad is the only person who kind of fits, and saying historical, like what historians study, and they go out and do they find the proof of all this fighting and so on. What are you talking about, Hijab? Like, what if you're talking about what's in the sources, what's in the Christian sources, what's in the Jewish sources, what's in the Muslim sources? Yeah, Muhammad fought, so did David, so did David. David fought in a bunch of wars and so on. He's going to say, but historically, I mean, if you're talking about something that's not that like you're going to find archaeologically, then you don't know anything about Muhammad. You have people who don't even believe Muhammad existed if they're just going with that. So anyway,
this sounds like he's going to narrow it down. The more you mention another alternative, because no, I'm talking only in the Arabian Peninsula. No, I'm only talking about in the 7th century specifically.
Yeah.
No, I'm only talking about Islamically. No, only people who were named Muhammad.
Yeah, that's what he's doing. Jummy at Terminate 3649. Diha looks just like Jibril. Convenient. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There are a bunch of passages about Muhammad programming his followers that when they see him with Deya, to assume that it's Gabriel. Who is this Daniel guy everyone is talking about, and what makes him such a kinky Jew? Oh, Daniel Hakika Jew. What if the Quran was intended to be read as an obscene comedy? Momo and his exploits and hypocrisy could then be the ultimate tongue-in-cheek mockery of the hero's journey. Momo is the Arab Patrick Bateman, the Arabian Psycho. That'd be a funny name for some sort of skit or something like that, or a biography about Muhammad, Arabian Psycho.
That's funny.
Sheep Squad, Singh Basi, a former Sikh, now a Christian, has written a book called Light of the Satguru, Good News for Sikhs, specifically to reach Sikhs with the gospel of Jesus Christ. That was that's in response to former Sikh who left a super chat earlier, so that might be something to check out there. 100 points to the guy. 100 points to the guy who put it in Mo Hijab mouth. What are you guys talking about, man? What's all this pervy stuff? Got these AP fans coming over here saying mean stuff.
Why do you have to think that? Why do you think that has to be something, perverted?
Yeah, could be talking about food. Could be talking about the French fries. Hey, Sneako, 100 points if you put one of those French fries you got there. Oh no, they call them chips there. I think they call them chips over there.
Well, maybe we're talking about words, putting words in Mohammed Hijab's mouth.
Yeah, something like that, or French fries.
Yeah.
AP, why does Turkey hate Christians and Christianity? As an ex-Muslim Christian, it really angers me, and I feel like screaming at Turks because of this. All Turks everywhere.
Well, it's mainly because of the mental deficiency and the results of wrong breeding practices and a genetic factor that is involved as well. According to some people, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't argue that at all. I would say it has to do mainly with historical, with indoctrination that is taught to Turkish people. Turkish people are always taught to be very proud of who they are, very proud of being of that certain race of Turkish people. They sing the Turkish national anthem, which literally praises Turks for being a great heroic race. That's what it actually says. Yes, I know to Europeans all of this sounds very, very, very weird and very problematic and outlandish. But yeah, and they also teach these whole ideas of we Turks, we came in and we conquered all of this, and when we conquered what the Greeks had and we took this land from them. But they don't actually learn that those Greeks had that land, the Christians had this land, it belonged to them. What they learn is basically they unjustly had this land. It was in their hands when it shouldn't have been, because the Christians and the Greeks, they were terrible people, they were unjust, and we Turks came in with the banner of Islam on a divine mission because we were so fantastic, and we came and we took them over, we killed them, and so on. This is the kind of narrative that they're fed all the time, and just the cultural depiction of Christian opponents in history, and even in recent history, is one where the Christians are always depicted as deceitful people who are evil, and you are good, you are great, you are fantastic, they are evil. When you are fed something like this all the time, this is just the result of it. I mean, even the at the end of the Ottoman Empire, they did commit a genocide on the Armenians. But to Turks, this is just unacceptable. You're not supposed to accept the idea that a genocide was committed. When you go further into the discussion, they will tell you, yes, lots of them did die. Yeah, lots of them were killed. They died, but they were asked for it. It's because they attacked and then they asked for it and then they got killed. Well, don't cry about it. So what they actually mean is not that we didn't kill them. They mean don't accuse us of murdering them. They deserve to die. This is the kind of mindset that you learn when you are in such a messed up culture. That's it.
So long story short, Turks are terrible.
Yeah.
Philip says, why don't you make a video where you draw a parallel between Epstein and Muhammad and make Epstein look like the good guy in the scenario, which I already did that. Philip, just look up Muhammad meets Jeffrey Epstein. It'll be on the Act 17 Polemics channel. It's already there. Why are you telling me to do something I've already done? Here we have Crucifixion's a Dawdle, Life of Brian. I still have to watch that. I saw Monty Python, The Holy Grail like 30 times and still have never seen Life of Brian. Did Momo bravely take the gangbang from the naked Jinn? Yes, assuming, but that probably wasn't really Jinn. It's probably something else. Or someone else, a gang of someone. Ain't it crazy? Hey, this is a good point. This is a really good point. Ain't it crazy that Sneako is the least unhinged person in that table? He normally asks questions and stuff, and Hijab is like, Lieb, arg, sexual, ah! I mean, seriously, when Sneako is the voice of sanity and reason in your group, if we're sitting there going, wow, Sneako is he's so calm and respectful and good compared to everyone else at the table. That kind of tells you something about your group. And who's he talking about? He's got like champions of Dawah. These are I mean, who's more popular in Dawah than these guys? Who? These are the most popular da'is on the planet, and you're sitting there looking at Sneako going, wow, so eloquent, such a voice of reason at this table. Compared to all these other guys who sound like complete unhinged lunatics. That tells you something that tells you everything you need to know about Dawah. If Sneako walks into your room and Sneako is by far the best person sitting down at the table, that kind of tells you something about the people at the table.
Sneako Kaliko. I watched part of Saajid Lipham's reaction to Mohammed Hijab talking about Jesus versus Andrew Tate, and he was also pointing that out. He was like, SubhanAllah, isn't it amazing that Sneako seems to be more reasonable here and taken aback by what Mohammed Hijab is saying. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's see. And what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour, but for this purpose I came to this hour. Father, glorify your name. Jesus is based. No, not according to Mohammed Hijab, who's the authority. Who's the authority on Jesus? Godub says, AP representing the two good Abrahamic religions.
Represent.
Yes. The two good ones, Islam and Islam.
You know what? I have a problem with whenever the word Abrahamic religions is mentioned, because this was not a thing that was. This is a very, very recent term.
They became used as an insult
religions.
To lump certain religions together.
And it was primarily used to group not Judaism and Christianity together, but to group Judaism, Christianity, and Islam together. Yeah, you ended
up with people who were using it in a positive sense. These are all Abrahamic religions. They're all united. They're all one group. But then you also had people who used it as an insult. It's the Abrahamic religions that are bad, and they're all lumped together with Islam. And so you see, they're all on the same page there.
But it's specifically so Abrahamic religion is specifically made up as a term because you already have something that is, for example, Judeo-Christian or biblical, which refers to Judaism and Christianity. You didn't have something that includes Islam as well. So the term Abrahamic religions came to be used in order to also include Islam. But it's just the only thing that makes Islam Abrahamic is that it adopted or appropriated, basically stole and incorporated biblical beliefs and ideas without understanding them at all. So it basically just came there and started stealing them, and that's what made it Abrahamic. Mm. So I just have a big problem with the whole Abrahamic term, because there is no continuity. There is continuity between Christianity and Judaism. There is no continuity between from Christianity to Islam. Islam simply just from the outside, as a polytheistic culture, adopted whatever it could from the biblical beliefs, and that's it.
It's pretty racist. Primus says, God Logic bodied Hamza, Cowboy, Roomsy alone? I'll have to see that. We don't know. At Uhud, this is from Al-Furqan Al-Haq. At Uhud, he wears 2 coats of mail, but makes his soldiers go out without armor. There's multiple times he avoids front line in Sirat. Yeah. And what did Hijab say? No, Muhammad's always on the front lines. He's always on the front lines saying, come join me in fighting and so on. So he's lying about Muhammad. And then Hijab himself is a massive hypocrite because he is prime fighting age. Well, he was a couple of years ago. He's getting a little on the heavy side now. So, But I mean, he was in prime fighting age, all kinds of jihad fighting going on in the world. And what's he do? He's sitting here chowing down in people's live streams. I predict that the more these Dawa Genesis gain popularity, the higher the apostasy rate. Oh, I mean, absolutely. You're entirely correct, which is why we love these guys. We absolutely love these guys. I've said it before. I've said it before. These are gold mines. These are gold mines. When you get a new dawahgandist who is a narcissist, that's who you're looking for. You're looking for one, a narcissist, but two, someone who has some degree of ability to rally other people around him. And once you've got that, you just want you want several guys like that, because they'll eventually be craving all the attention for themselves. And Islam is already going to implode from within because of who their dawah guys are. We just want to help them out. And how do we do that? Well, these are gold mines. You just go around and visit your gold mine every once in a while, and you see what your gold mines are producing, and you look at what Mohammed Hijab is producing. Nothing that's actually helping Islam. Did you see the Logic and John debate and him on Hamza's live with Cowboy and Ramsey today for like 3 hours? No, I didn't. I was asleep, but I'm going to check it out. Jesus' occupation in the mortal world was a humble carpenter, assuming he inherited Joseph's job. He did. Yet he got the balls to stand up against the authority and preach a new teaching. That is courage to me. Yeah, so you had multiple things. One, he's in an environment where you have Romans who will execute you for stirring up any trouble. And Jesus repeatedly sets himself at odds with the religious leaders of the time. We might check out some of that depending on what Hijab says here. Sounds like Mo likes it between the cheeks. That is what it sounds like, guys. I'm serious. It sounds like that in the Muslim sources. Like you can't prove it. Like I can't prove that he wasn't meeting with Jibreel or something like that, who just happened to look exactly like Dihya al-Kalbi behind the curtain. But you know what that sounds like. You know what that sounds like. Sheikh Mike Wingeling, Hijab has a point. This Jesus guy in the Bible sounds nothing like a Muslim. Turn the other cheek, Isa would behead those who slap him and their goats. And Jesus, who cast out demons and faced the powers of hell while his disciples argued or slept, is wimpy and not courageous. Muhammad, who did nothing but lose to demons and black magic, was brave. Yeah, and the guy who, if you recall correctly, Muhammad repeatedly just went up to a mountain to hurl himself off, and Jibreel would have to talk him down off the mountain. Hey, what about the stories when Muhammad thought he was being attacked by a demon and he runs home to his wife Khadijah to protect him? Cover me, Khadijah, cover me. And Khadijah's, what's wrong? Oh, there's a demon. He's a demon. Get it. He's trying to get me. You run to your wife. You run to your wife to protect you from the demon. Did you run to your wife to protect you from the armies too, Muhammad? Physical bravery is not running away from a dragon. That's true. Yes.
Let's get physical.
Let's get physical. Yes, Nicomachean Ethics is one of the best books. It's good stuff.
Pretty good.
Who's AP to talk about Prophet Muhammad? Doesn't even know magnesium malate is better for sleep than melatonin. Plus, only weaklings need to sleep. Good point.
If you insult my melatonin, I will come for you and behead you.
David, what do you think of the abolitionist movement, the modern-day anti-abortion movement, not the anti-slavery movement, just to be clear? Well, I'm a Christian, so I believe abortion is wrong. It's also... from the perspective of, if you're just looking at the Constitution and so on, it does seem like it's a states' rights issue. Notice that's separate from the moral issue. I don't know what to do about it. So, and I would want there to be no abortion. How you go about that and so on, whether this way or some other way, I do not know. Not my area.
I don't like abortion. I don't like the abortion.
Yeah, darn right. Make Anatolia Byzantine again. Turks back to Turkmenistan. Yeah, AP, take your people and go back to Turkmenistan.
Fine, man. Leave me alone.
Leave and go back to. Most names of groups started as an insult. That is true. Life of Brian is a masterpiece. I'll still have to watch it. All right, let's get back to this video because it's super dope.
Another example.
So he gave his example of bravery. Now he's going to even give another example of how Jesus isn't virtuous in the Bible or Muhammad is, something like that.
Okay, so that's bravery. Fine. You
Wait.
make a point.
I totally forgot. He was talking, maybe he's going to bring it up again, but he's talking about how the Jesus in Islam is virtuous, but not Jesus in the New Testament. We're gonna have a problem with that, but we'll check that out when he says it. Huh?
Okay. Continue.
Yeah.
What else? We say we'll go to an example of forgiveness. Let me preamble this with the following. If you have a prisoner and a prison guard, you've got a prisoner in a prison cell and you have a prison guard, yeah? If, for example, the prison guard is going to take the prisoner and go and do something with him, and the prisoner says to the prison guard, he says to him, I was going to take revenge on you, but today I'm not going to take revenge. The prisoner says that to the prison guard. Would that be considered to be magnanimous or forgiving, merciful behavior? Not necessarily. Why? Because he doesn't have any power. So a prerequisite for showing mercy on someone is to have power.
He just changed what he's talking about. He said forgiveness at first, and then he said that a prerequisite for showing mercy is having power. Is having power. So what he's going to say is Muhammad was merciful because Muhammad eventually had power over people. Jesus didn't, therefore Jesus wasn't merciful.
This is just it's so stupid. Whenever this guy talks, all he does is to slowly try to reason his discussion into setting up the conditions and the perimeters, whatever it is, in order to set up the discussion in such a way that it favors Islam, and then to say something good about Muhammad. That's all it does. And it just, every single time that it occurs, every single time that he does it, it sounds just so deceptive and dishonest to any person who has a little bit of a mind to see what's going on here.
It's pretty pathetic, but let's see where he goes with this. So he's laid it down that he's talking about forgiveness and mercy, and it doesn't work if you have power over them. So if you as a person do something wrong to me and I don't have power over you and I forgive you, then it's not, I'm not really being virtuous there. I'm only being virtuous if I have power over you and then I don't harm you. But let's see where he's going with this.
Do you see? If you don't have power over them, it's not really plausible to show mercy over them. Now, the character of Jesus Christ in the New Testament, the historical character, according to that narrative, he never had political power. So therefore, you cannot make the argument.
Isn't it funny that, he'll cite I'm just talking about the Jesus of the New Testament. I'm just talking about the Jesus of the Jesus of the Bible said, I can call on 12 legions of angels and wipe you out, and I'm not going to. So here's what's amazing. Here's what's amazing. He's saying, you can only be merciful if you have power over them. I'm just talking about the Jesus of the New Testament. He had no power over them. Well, if this is Jesus of the New Testament, what are you talking about? He could have completely wiped them out. It's not what he came for. It's not what he came for. So how in the name of common sense are you saying, I'm just talking about their Jesus? The Jesus of the Bible is the incarnate God who, instead of wiping them out, enters creation to die on their behalf to show them mercy. And he's saying this is not merciful because he didn't have political power. Why? Because he came for a different purpose in order to show mercy. This is like insanely stupid. And this is the champion of dawah. You look, everyone around the table is just, oh, it's so great. What powerful dawah. And he's saying stuff that is so insanely idiotic to anyone with a functioning brain.
Brother Hijab makes such a good point. Brother Hijab, can I touch you, please?
So base.
He might say, well, I'm only talking about the historical figure. That we cannot historically establish that he actually had those powers.
If he's talking about the historical figure, the historical Jesus should line up with Islam, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's he talking about? He repeatedly says, I'm talking about their Jesus, their New Testament Jesus.
He says the historical Jesus according to his depiction in the New Testament. So let's say the depiction of the New Testament in the New Testament of Jesus is correct, but also in such a way that it aligns with the historical Jesus. So insofar, you would then have to assume that You only have the natural conditions, and the supernatural you cannot take into consideration when you judge whether he is
Hey,
merciful or not, whether you judge whether he is virtuous or not. But even then,
hey,
what?
check this out.
What?
Here's Jesus. So if you just look at what Jesus did, here, check this out. Jesus forgives and heals a paralyzed man. A few days later, when Jesus again entered Capernaum, the people heard that he had come home. They gathered in such large numbers that there was no room left, not even outside the door, and he preached the word to them. Some men came, bringing to him a paralyzed man, carried by 4 of them. Since they could not get him to Jesus because of the crowd, they made an opening in the roof above Jesus by digging through it, and then lowered the mat the man was lying on. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralyzed man, "Son, your sins are forgiven." So Jesus announces, "Son, your sins are forgiven. Your sins are forgiven." So this is forgiveness, right? Now, Mohammed Hijab says, well, you can't forgive someone unless you have the power over them. Watch what Jesus does. Now, some teachers of the law were sitting there thinking to themselves, why does this fellow talk like that? He's blaspheming. Who can forgive sins but God alone? That's true according to the Quran. Allah is the only one who can ultimately forgive sins. And yet here's Jesus saying, your sins are forgiven. Immediately, Jesus knew in his spirit that this was what they were thinking in their hearts. And he said to them, why are you thinking these things? Which is easier, to say to this paralyzed man, your sins are forgiven, or to say, get up, take your mat and walk? But I want you to know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins. So he said to the man, I tell you, get up, take your mat and go home. He got up, took his mat and walked out in full view of them all. This amazed everyone, and they praised God, saying, we have never seen anything like this. So guys, think about this from the perspective of Mohammed Hijab. It's not really forgiveness and mercy unless you have power over the person. Jesus says your sins are forgiven, so forgiveness. Then what does he do? And he says, just so you know I have this authority, or you might say this power, to forgive sins, I'm showing you that I have power over nature, and I'm going to heal this man. And so he heals the man, the paralyzed man gets up and walks. So does Jesus have the power? He shows that he has the power. And he pronounces forgiveness. According to Mohammed Hijab, this is nothing because it wasn't political power. It wasn't political power that he had over this guy. Jesus wasn't a politician. He wasn't a politician. You can't have mercy or forgiveness unless you're a politician, according to Mohammed Hijab. This is insanely idiotic, and that's why we love him. He keeps giving us the opportunities to expose this complete nonsense.
Yeah.
For example, that he could manifest a kind of mercy on people. You cannot make the argument, unless you want to use the theological models of he's God and all that kind of stuff, which we would even debate that the New Testament makes that very clear. But putting that to the side, the historical character of Jesus.
You have to take those into consideration, and you have to accept those standards if you want to judge, if you want to make a comparison between Jesus in the New Testament and somebody who's walking around today. This is why I was pointing out earlier. So it sounds like he's trying to make a distinction between who Jesus was according to the Christian belief and who Jesus was with the New Testament narrative by historical standards. So he would have to disqualify any kind of divine, any kind of supernatural abilities, supernatural powers, any kind of claims about Jesus concerning the divinity and the powers he possesses and all that. The problem is you can't do that. That is nonsensical. If you want to appeal to the character of Jesus according to the New Testament, you have to assume that those things exist, those powers, those narratives, those beliefs are true, and then compare that figure to somebody who's walking around today like the sex trafficker Andrew Tate. If you are going to say, oh, no, I'm just talking about the natural aspect, without all this divine authority and power and all that, that's not a fair comparison. Then you shouldn't be talking about the Jesus of the New Testament, because that is not the Jesus of the New Testament.
Yeah, so in other words, Hijab is saying, hey, if we just look at virtue, let's look at Jesus from the perspective of virtue, but we'll take out all the theological elements and the meaning behind this in the New Testament, and we'll just go with all the stuff that I can use in this, and I'll take out everything else that completely contradicts what I'm saying, and to make my completely valid comparison. And then, by the way, after that, I'm going to lie about Muhammad, which is what he's about to do again.
This is so fallacious again.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible. This is dawah, guys. This is not some random guy. This is Mohammed Hijab, And he's sitting next to Ali Dawah, who's agreeing with everything. These are the two most prominent da'is on the planet. Smiles to Jinnah's right there too. I'm surprised he's not walking around feeding them. It's what he likes to do. He likes to go around feeding them grapes, scraping them in the mouth.
New Testament. He did not have political power. And hence, so
He didn't have political power, therefore, he doesn't have the virtue of forgiveness and mercy. You just heard it, ladies and gentlemen.
therefore, he could not show a kind of mercy and forgiveness that the Prophet Muhammad did. Because when he went into Mecca, and all the people there were,
There you have it.
Those were the same people that tried to kill him, he forgave them. He forgave the people. So the Prophet has mercy. He has forgiveness. He has bravery.
Okay, Mohammed.
The seerah of the Prophet, and this is what everybody needs to do when they start practicing. They need to look at the biography of the Prophet Muhammad.
Okay, hold that. We have to change the battery for a second.
We got to change the battery. What were you saying?
Okay, Mohammed Hijab. Muhammad was. Let's take the Jesus in the New Testament as a standard, and let's take Muhammad in Islamic sources as a standard. Muhammad has people around him and establishes his own authority in his own state. When he is criticized and bashed by people, does he simply forgive them and look past it and preach peace to them? No. He actually commands his followers to go and kill those people who badmouth him. Mm-hmm. Now let's talk about Jesus in the New Testament. Jesus in the New Testament has more power than any human being ever can have or ever had, has divine authority. And he is there going around forgiving people, right? Forgiving people, uplifting people, healing people, and so on. Now you can't say no, we can't take into consideration the assertion that he was divine and that he had authority.
You have to take all that out. We take all that out.
We have to take that into consideration. We have to take that into consideration because that is the narrative. If those if those powers, if that authority is not part of Jesus when we analyze whether Jesus is virtuous or not, then we are not talking about the Jesus in the New Testament. The Jesus in the New Testament is believed to be what Christians believe him to be. He has powers beyond any human comprehension. Be honest when you make some comparisons here. This just shows that Mohammed Hijab is either being deliberately obtuse and dishonest, or that he is actually dumb enough that he didn't think this through.
Mm-hmm. And so it would be a guy. So hey, I'm showing that the Jesus of the New Testament is not virtuous. And in order to show that, I'm going to take out all the stuff that shows that he's virtuous. So all the stuff that actually applies to these virtues, I'm going to take all that out and pretend it's not there and say, well, I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that. And then I'm going to compare that Jesus. So anyway, but yeah, let's let him finish his point. So they have to change a battery. I cut out the break here.
That's fine. The highest form of jihad is to speak against
a tyrant. Yeah,
he did that.
Yeah, sure. I'm just saying, compare the two.
So what you're basically.
Oh, it looks like someone behind the camera was saying the highest form. So someone said the highest form. I didn't make it out because I wasn't listening to my headphones there. But if someone said the highest form of jihad is speaking out against a tyrant, and they say Jesus did that, and then he said, "Oh yeah, but I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that." So anyway, so he's saying, hey, according to the standard of Muhammad, Jesus would actually be brave. And so anyway, we'll see what Hijab says.
The point is, Muhammad, peace be upon him, is more brave than Jesus, peace be upon him.
No. I wouldn't put it like that. We're talking about their narrative, the New Testament narrative. If we're being objective, we get
if we're being objective, yeah, Mohammed Hijab is being objective here. He's just being objective. When he lies about Muhammad, he was always on the front lines. Yeah, when he lies about Muhammad, and then he completely misrepresents Jesus in the New Testament and says he's responding to Jesus in the New Testament, he's being objective in here. He's just to be clear, he's being objective because he just said he was.
I want to point out this is very important, and I just want this to be clear. especially if you're saying, if we are being objective and you're evaluating Jesus in their narrative, in the biblical narrative according to the New Testament, then you have to, whether you believe in Christianity or not, whether you believe in the Bible, whether you believe in the New Testament or not, you have to evaluate Jesus in such a way that he is God, and he is the Son of God, and he has powers that are divine, that no human has, and then evaluate his actions.
Yeah. In other words, you
You
could
don't do
agree.
that with-
Yeah, you could sit here and agree with what Mohammed Hijab is saying. It's just that's not the Jesus we believe in, dude. Everything you're saying is not the Jesus I believe in. So who are you attacking? You're not going after the Muslim Jesus. You're not going after the Christian Jesus. Who are you? Who are you going after? Anyway, just finished watching Chef Logic, Avery, Cook, Hamza, Rumsey, and Muslim Cowboy in a 3-on-1 stream. What a barbecue show to watch, AP and D-Wood. I bet you if you go to the comments in the Muslim videos, oh, Muslim dawah is so powerful and strong. And if you go to anyone else, Christian, atheist, Hindu, whatever, they're like, wow, these dawah guys are a joke. Cam says, love the streams, gentlemen. Keep destroying dawah. However, I cannot help but dislike AP immensely. Welcome to the club. Not because of anything he did personally, but just because he's a Turk and I play a lot of EU4. I'm sure he'd understand.
Well, that's first of all, it's a terrible point, Camly, because if you play EU4 and judge Turks based on that, you should understand that Turks are shaped quite differently historically. I would recommend, in order to get a better picture of the situation, to also play CK3 and to then make your judgment about Turks.
None of that makes any sense. I understand and appropriate your position, AP. Bad move. Miley says, Buddhism has as much relation to Noah as Islam does to Abraham. We should start calling every religion Noahide religions. Where's Nobel Peace Prize? Good idea.
That's beautiful.
Talking about Chef Logic's debate, they also refuse to let Sam join in. Yeah, that's a shocker. I mean, Avery's good on his own. Avery's good on his own. But yeah, if they let Sam in there, that'd just be a ridiculous massacre. Islam thrived by the sword, died by the internet. Yes. AP really into the Quran, I see. That was earlier when you were smooching the Quran like
Oh,
Putin.
yeah, I was making love to the Quran. Yeah.
Like Putin. Muhammad got his cheeks clapped. Possibly. Mike Winger just posted about the Lord of the Rings War of the Rohirrim trailer. It's confirmed he's also Lord of the Rings nerd. Wow, Star Trek nerd and Lord of the Rings nerd. That's like toss in Star Wars and he'd be all the nerds in one. And that could be used as an analogy for Muslims who object to the doctrine of the Trinity and they don't think something can be one in one way, more than one in another way. Mike Winger would be one nerd, but 3 different nerds simultaneously. New to Goat Hub, Turkish man cheats on his Christian wife with Muslim material. I was talking about you burying your face in the Quran. AP stays. They have the AP stays. They can have Hamas, Abi, and chunk yogurt. That's good.
Oh, yeah.
And they're talking about the Turks here. Muslims have been forbidden to watch any Kevin Bacon movies. I guess because of the bacon. Let's see. Muhammad, fight for Islam. Also, Muhammad, who would like to take my places? Russia, China, brutalize Muslims in Central Arabia. Muslims kill the Jews. That's right. So that's pointing out that, hey, look at what China is doing to Muslims. And then what are Muslims obsessed with? Killing the Jews and so on. The smallest, tiniest little group there. All right, back to Hijab here. So he's pointing out that Muhammad had political power, and so he can show true mercy. I'm hoping he gets right back to that point here because it's really bad and stupid.
Those who are bashing Israel at the moment for what Israel is doing bravely and greatly should really seek help. No, it should actually view things from a different perspective. I pointed it out yesterday as well. If Europe had healthy testicles, they would also, of great magnitude, they would have fought Islamist terrorism by now. Unfortunately, Europe does not have healthy testicles of great magnitude. Israel does, however, which is why they are fighting. And we should be supporting the one the one force right now that is standing up against Islamist terrorism and Islamist conquests and advancements, and that is Israel, which has very healthy and very large testicles.
Along the lines with whoever was on the camera here. By the way, we should, depending on what happens, unless things just completely die down here, we might want to do a show going through the situation with Israel and Hezbollah in the very near future. See what's going on.
Yeah.
Keep everyone updated. Right here, as far as courage goes, 7 woes to the scribes and Pharisees. So there were hypocritical religious leaders who were, in good Islamic fashion, telling other people to do things that they themselves were. Anyway, they're basically hypocritical, doing things for show, telling other people to do things that they weren't willing to do themselves, and so on. Exactly what you find Muhammad doing. Everything's for show. He gets a good reputation, violates his own commands, breaks his own oaths, and so on. This is all fine. And what does Jesus ultimately say? But woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! What is his main objection to everything? Hypocrisy. What is Muhammad's cardinal virtue? Hypocrisy. What is Mohammed Hijab's cardinal virtue? Hypocrisy. What is Jesus blasting away at? Hypocrisy. But woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you shut the kingdom of heaven in people's faces. For you neither enter yourselves, nor allow those to go in who would enter to go in. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you travel across land and sea to make a single proselyte, and when he becomes a proselyte, you make him twice as much a child of hell as yourselves. Woe to you, blind guides, who say, if anyone swears by the temple, it is nothing, but if anyone swears by the gold of the temple, he is bound by his oath. You blind fools! For which is greater, the gold or the temple that has made the gold sacred? And you say, if anyone swears by the altar, it is nothing, but if anyone swears by the gift that is on the altar, he is bound by his oath. You blind men! For which is greater, the gift or the altar that makes the gift sacred? So whoever swears by the altar swears by it and by everything on it, and whoever swears by the temple swears by it and by him who dwells in it. And whoever swears by heaven swears by the throne of God and by him who sits upon it. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you tithe mint and dill and cumin, and you have neglected the weightier matters of the law, justice and mercy and faithfulness. These you ought to have done without neglecting the others. You blind guides, straining out a gnat but swallowing a camel. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites, for you clean the outside of the cup and plate, but inside they are full of greed and self-indulgence. You blind Pharisee, first clean the inside of the cup and plate, that the outside also may be clean. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you are like whitewashed tombs, which outwardly appear beautiful, but within are full of dead people's bones and all uncleanness. So you also outwardly appear righteous to others, but within you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. What's he doing? He's calling out the religious leaders of his time for hypocrisy. These are people who have sway with the Roman leaders and can have him executed. And they do shortly after this. And he knew it would happen somehow, calling out hypocrites who can have him executed. That's not bravery, because he wasn't a politician, you see. He wasn't a politician. Another little situation here, since we're on the topic. This is from John 2. Jesus clears the temple courts. When it was almost time for the Jewish Passover, Jesus went up to Jerusalem. In the temple courts, he found people selling cattle, sheep, and doves, and others sitting at tables exchanging money. So he made a whip out of cords and drove all from the temple courts, both sheep and cattle. He scattered the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. To those who sold doves, he said, "Get these out of here. Stop turning my Father's house into a market." His disciples remembered that it is written, "Zeal for your house will consume me." So he's cleansing the temple courts of people who were using it to make money for their own personal gain. He calls out hypocritical religious leaders. According to Mohammed Hijab, he's a pathetic weakling and a coward because he wasn't a politician. He wasn't a politician, and he wasn't going out slaughtering people in the name of Allah. So he's a little weakling. You heard it. You heard it here, folks.
So Jesus basically
In
said,
definition from
What's that?
Jesus basically said, but the people are...
Yeah. Yep.
Yes. Yes.
All right. So where's Hijab going with this? Anyway, guys, the point is, he's saying, "Oh, you're not." I don't even know what to do. This is so insanely stupid. He's saying, Jesus wasn't forgiving because he didn't have political power, even though the Jesus there is God who, instead of judging, enters creation specifically to show mercy by dying by accepting the punishment that other people deserved. But that's not merciful. Forgiveness, Hijab says, Jesus didn't have political power over people, so he wasn't forgiving, even though he pronounced it. I mean, on the cross he says, "Forgive them, Father. They don't know what they're doing." But even during his life, when he would say, "Your sins are forgiven," he shows by performing miracles that he has power over these situations. And in addition to all that, Jesus wasn't brave because he didn't go around hacking people up in the name of Allah, even though he faces death in one of the worst manners ever devised by human beings. So that's the hijab we're dealing with. He's saying this Jesus is not brave, he's not forgiving, and he's not merciful because he's not a politician.
Classical times until modern times of what the word bravery means, apply it to the seerah. Once again, use AI. Apply it to the seerah of the Prophet Muhammad versus the New Testament and see which of the two fits that definition more. I'm sorry to say there's no comparison because in the seerah you have moral bravery, which is speaking...
Hey, Mocow, gifted 5 memberships. What'd you say?
He said use AI. Is that what he just said?
Use AI? Did he say that?
I think I'm going to do that now. Since he said
use AI?
Yeah, I'm gonna see that. I'm gonna show the results.
Who's more virtuous? Who's more virtuous?
The AI or yeah.
Well, the AIs are pretty pro-Islamic. I've heard.
Not really.
That's good. That's good. All right, let's see where he's going with this because he's already lied, saying Muhammad forgave everyone. I think he says he forgave everyone. Let's see if he comes back to this.
It's different to, let's say, physical bravery, right? You have moral bravery where the Prophet spoke out against tyrants and so on, but you also have the physical one. Whereas you don't have as much evidence of physical bravery from the historical character of Jesus called the New Testament. So I'm just saying that obviously for us, Jesus Christ is a beloved, infallible prophet.
So you take people, just to be clear, you take people like Martin Luther King Jr., who wasn't out fighting. He's not brave, according to Mohammed Hijab, because he's not killing. If he were to kill, then this would show that he's brave. But because he went out and engaged in what's called passive resistance, he's resisting, but he's not attacking back. Therefore, he's not brave. Gandhi, going up against the British with passive resistance, he was not brave. He was not brave. It was not brave of him to do that.
Well, Gandhi was a little bit of a jerk, anyway.
Two different things. Could be the biggest jerk in the world. Was he brave? That's the question. According to Hijab, no, because you have to be slaughtering people in the name of Allah.
But so Martin Luther King was a weakling. He was a weakling. By the way, he should also clarify at that point that Malcolm X was also a weakling. He was also not brave. I'm pretty sure that people, they would love that. But in comparison to that, Andrew Tate, he was brave.
Yeah, that's where he's going with this.
Weaklings, because he was a brave KFC fighter. That's what he was. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got to get to that here. I'm waiting for him to get to the Andrew Tate part.
We can say Christ?
Yeah, we can say Christ. We believe he's Christ. Yeah, Christ, the Messiah.
He just called him Christ, and Sneako's like, we could call him Christ? So he hasn't learned that yet, and since he's been a Muslim, he hasn't learned that Jesus is the Messiah, according to Islam. This is new information to him. So, yeah, Sneako's doing a bang-up job of being taught Islam by these guys.
Assalamu alaikum, Dawood. How are you, bro? Good to see you.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you doing? Okay.
But from an Islamic perspective as well, look, everyone's going to run away from the Dajjal, right? The Antichrist. Yeah? Who's the one that's going to fight him? Isa alayhi salam. Our narrative, he's the bro. Everyone's going to run away from the Antichrist, and he's the one that's going to fight it. That's the Jesus we know.
It's everybody, or I thought it was 90% of people?
Everyone's running. Even Mahdi. There's nada.
You're running too?
Me, brother, I'm the first one to run. What are you talking about? I do tactical retreat. I'm not for it.
Did you hear what he just said? Ali Dawa just said, I'm the first one to run. You got that right, Ali Dawa. Especially when it comes to debate. Unless you got Smiles to Jenna as your comfort blanket, feeding you grapes during the debate to keep you calm.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did he just say there? He says, Jesus in Islam. Jesus in Islam, he's going to fight the Antichrist. You see, he's brave in Islam. So now they're taking the second coming into consideration. This is just a joke, man. This is just a joke. What did Jesus in Islam during his lifetime? How many people did he go around slaughtering in the name of Allah? And if he didn't, then why? So you don't consider him brave or virtuous or whatever? In other words, how is the Jesus of Islam virtuous during his lifetime, but the Jesus of the New Testament isn't? What criteria are you using? And I'm about to show. I'm going to let them finish the point, but I'm about to show that the Jesus of Islam is actually a sniveling little coward. And I don't say that lightly. I'm saying it's actually pathetic what a sniveling little coward the Isa of Islam is. We're about to see that, but let's see where they go with this.
No, Mahdi alayhi salam is not. He's not going to. Mahdi alayhi salam is not going to.
Mahdi's running too?
Not running.
Not running, but but he's not going to face him.
So what's Mahdi doing?
We are told, by the way, it's not a thing of cowardly.
The only person that could kill the Antichrist, the only one that has the ability to kill him is Isa alayhi salam. No one else has the ability to.
Yes, our narrative is not. By the way, our narrative of Jesus. Wallahi, our narrative of Jesus is so much more.
Yes.
It's so much more practical, so much more virtuous than their narrative.
So much more practical and virtuous. Did you catch? All right, now I'm going to show it.
I just want to point out the obvious here, which is Islam doesn't really have a narrative of Jesus. But Islam doesn't really have a narrative of Jesus and who Jesus was and what he did at all, except for a few phrases where Jesus suspiciously sounds exactly like Muhammad in the 7th century.
It's weird.
The only thing that they do have is what Jesus will allegedly do when he comes back as an Islamic Jesus in the future. And in that way, when he would come back, he would simply come back and fight evil and destroy, and of course kill the pig and break the cross and then kill the Dajjal. That's what he would do. He's not even in that way compared to the Christian depiction of Jesus, the actual depiction of Jesus. Not even in that regard there is much information or much greatness about Jesus.
And let's go ahead and take a look at the Islamic Jesus. This is the Islamic Jesus. So the Jesus of the Bible faces death. When people come to kill him, he faces death and is executed. So this is Ibn Kathir, the commentary of Ibn Kathir. Commentary of Ibn Kathir on Surah 4, verse 157, which is supposedly, according to mainstream Islamic interpretation, this is saying that Jesus never died by crucifixion, never happened. And the story that lots of people hear, because it became popular in our time, but the story that we hear is that Jesus was replaced by Judas. So Judas was actually crucified in Jesus' place. Judas was crucified, and Jesus allowed this to happen. He allowed Judas to be crucified in his place. However, that's the story that became popular recently. If you go back earlier in Islam, they had different stories. All right, so let's go ahead and read Ibn Kathir. So Ibn Kathir gives his story. When Allah sent Isa with proofs and guidance, the Jews, may Allah's curses, anger, torment, and punishment be upon them. Hey, we should start saying that about Muhammad. And when false prophet Muhammad, may God's curses, anger, torment, and punishment be upon him. But he says it about the Jews here. Envied him because of his prophethood and obvious miracles, curing the blind and leprous and bringing the dead back to life. So that's why they were mad at him. They were mad because he was healing everyone, not by anything he said, by Allah's leave. He also used to make the shape of a bird from clay and blow in it, and it became a bird by Allah's leave and flew. So Jesus creating in the same way Allah created man. Isa performed other miracles that Allah honored him with, yet the Jews defied and belied him and tried their best to harm him. Allah's prophet Isa could not live in any one city for long, and he had to travel often with his mother, peace be upon them. Even so, The Jews were not satisfied, and they went to the king of Damascus at that time, a Greek polytheist who worshipped the stars. They told him that there was a man in Beit al-Maqdis misguiding and dividing the people in Jerusalem and stirring unrest among the king's subjects. The king became angry and wrote to his deputy in Jerusalem to arrest the rebel leader, stop him from causing unrest, crucify him, and make him wear a crown of thorns. When the king's deputy in Jerusalem received these orders, he went with some Jews to the house that Isa was residing in, and he was then with 12, 13, or 17 of his companions. So they're coming to get Jesus. They're coming to get Jesus to have him crucified.
This is so stupid.
It's really it's like 1,000 layers of stupid in this source. Everything's wrong.
He went with some Jews to the house. This is Ibn Kathir, and in general, Islamic interpretations of things sounds like how Groypers interpret history.
Mm-hmm. So here you have right in the middle there, 12, 13, or 17 of his companions. That day was a Friday in the evening. They surrounded Isa in the house, and when he felt that they would soon enter the house, or that he would sooner or later have to leave it, he said to his companions, "Who volunteers to be made to look like me, for which he will be my companion in paradise?" A young man volunteered, but Isa thought he was too young. He asked the question a second and third time, each time the young man volunteering, prompting Isa to say, "Well then, you will be that man." Allah made the young man look exactly like Isa, while a hole opened in the roof of the house, and Isa was made to sleep and ascended to heaven while asleep. So Jesus takes a nap. Well, this is the brave Muslim Jesus, the superior Muslim Jesus, ladies and gentlemen. Oh no, they're about to come get me. They've sent an army, they've sent soldiers to come get me. They've surrounded the place. What are we going to do? Hey, who wants to be disguised by God to be crucified in my place while I take a nap and get taken up to paradise?
This is Islam trying to depict Jesus in their view, just the way Muhammad was. Muhammad was a little weasel, a coward, an unreliable, sneaky, deceitful, whatever you want to call it. But he was mostly a coward. He was an absolute coward, and they want to take Jesus and also depict him as a coward in order to make him fit into Islam, just like Muhammad. Just like Muhammad was a coward, Jesus also has to be a coward because he's now a Muslim. He's now from our perspective. He's part of us, and we are cowards. Cowardice and deceit is great. This is what we are. Is this really better than the Christian narrative?
Is this braver? Muslims, is this more brave? You have the pillars of dawah. I mean, you have the pillars of dawah sitting at a table, and they're saying, let's just compare Muhammad with Jesus in terms of the virtue of bravery. Oh, Jesus, he wasn't brave because he wasn't a politician. And even Sneako brings up, what about being crucified and so on? The Jesus of the Bible knows that he's going to be crucified, knows what it's for, and faces torture and death for the sake of others. That's not brave. That's not brave, according to our Muslim friends. And then he goes on to say, but Jesus in Islam is way more virtuous. So what? The virtue of bravery? What does the Jesus of Islam do? Hey guys, they're coming to get me. Will someone else take my place and be crucified so I don't have to experience it? I don't want to do it. That would suck. Gosh. Please, God, oh great God, Allah, protect me and punish this guy in my place. Let him take this horrible punishment. He's just a young guy, a random young guy who, and keep in mind, would this young guy who's voluntarily being crucified in Jesus' place, would he be brave? Would he have the virtue of bravery? No, because he's not a politician. He's not slaughtering them. He's just being crucified. So facing torture and death, that's not brave. That ain't brave. He would be brave if he went out and killed them all. If he went out and killed them all, that would be brave. But taking the punishment of someone else, because guys, I mean, notice the gospel reversal here. In Christianity, Jesus takes the punishment that other people deserve. In the Muslim sources, someone else takes the punishment that Jesus is supposed to have. So it completely reverses the gospel. But seriously, guys, how do you take someone like Mohammed Hijab seriously when he knows this is in his sources? He knows that Jesus of Islam is a coward who has someone else take his punishment while he takes a nap and gets taken up to heaven. How do you believe anything this guy? I'm talking Muslims. How do you take this guy seriously ever at this point? How? I want to know.
Isa was the best because he was a weakling. Isa alayhi salam. He was a weakling. That's why he was the best of all. You see,
wild stuff. And here we go. We're going to let Mohammed Hijab finish his pathetic and deceptive points, guys. What has he been right about? He's not right. He's wrong about Jesus in the New Testament. He's wrong about Jesus in Islam. He's wrong about Muhammad, his history. He's wrong about everything. Everything is deception, and he knows it. It would be one thing if it was some ignorant guy who read a couple websites and that's all he knows. It would be one thing if someone like that was saying something. It's Mohammed Hijab. He knows what's in the sources, and he knows how deceptive he's being, and he does it anyway because that's what dawah is. That's what dawah is. All right, back to Hijab. Let him.
Well, he did clarify to be honest. He did clarify in the very beginning of this whole this whole conversation that Allah's attributes are what makes someone virtuous, and we did point out that Allah is also described as the best of deceivers. So Muhammad is just doing a great job here.
He's doing a powerful job. Powerful job.
I'm going to say, our Jesus is so much more virtuous. It's the kind of man any young person would want to follow.
Any young person, if someone's coming to kill them, any young person who respects virtue would say, hey, Billy, you go be killed in my place. That's what young people like, virtuous. All right. Here we go.
Hey, Jesus, they may, in their own religious context, want to follow him. But in the meantime, they're watching Andrew Tate because, in a way, Andrew...
Yeah, we're watching Andrew Tate. That's what we do. That's what Christians do. Guys, you hear this?
Christians want to be just like Andrew Tate.
Yeah, so like what Christians? The sort of Christian, like what? Young, dumb, loosely, like may have grown up in a Christian household. Do you think serious Christians are watching Andrew Tate? Like where? You do have serious Muslims watching Andrew Tate. And so following Hijab's reasoning, look at what he's saying here. He's saying they may say they love Jesus, but they actually watch Andrew Tate. They actually watch Andrew Tate. Dude, it's Muslims who are watching Andrew Tate and a bunch of clueless young people who, yeah, I like it how he's talking about women and how he talks about how we can have Bugattis and make porn. Yeah, we like that. Who does that appeal to? He's saying it's a bunch of Christians watching this because Jesus isn't appealing enough for us.
In the meantime, they're watching Andrew Tate because, in a way, Andrew Tate, the character of Andrew Tate, has certain things that the New Testament Jesus doesn't have.
Oh, man.
Look at Sneako. Look at Sneako. Again, Sneako is the voice of reason here. He's like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. He just said, Andrew Tate, he says certain virtues that Jesus doesn't have. And what he's talking about is he's more of a man. Why? Because look at him. Look at what he did. He got a Bugatti on the backs of his girls that he manipulated into doing porn, like our prophet manipulated us into doing dawah. He's more of a man. He's more manly than Jesus, who faced death. What's fun? What's funny, AP, is you've pointed this out before. Andrew Tate used to circulate a picture of him being crucified for other people. Yeah. So wait a minute, that's Andrew Tate saying I want to be like Jesus. I want to be like Jesus here. And then you've got Mohammed Hijab. No, Christians pretend to like Jesus, but they actually like Andrew Tate. This is like King of Dawah here. This is King of Dawah, and Sneako's going, oh my goodness, look at this. What is this guy saying? This is awesome stuff.
That's the truth.
They're going to be angry on that one.
It doesn't matter.
No, we're going to love it.
I love it. Effectively.
We're going to love it.
The New Testament Jesus, I'm sorry to say, is a contradictory figure. Because you've got him when he's got no power, yes, he's acting in a very forgiving, you could call it way, very placid way, very docile way.
Docile? Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites. That's docile. Flipping over tables in the temple. That's docile.
So ridiculously stupid. He's contradicting himself within just 1 minute, so blatantly. Listen to what he's saying here. Continue. Listen to what he's saying. He's contradicting himself so badly. It's so stupid. And I'll explain. But you will be able to see it anyway. Continue. Let's see.
Yes. But then when he comes back,
the biblical narrative.
When he comes back in the book of Revelation, what does he do? He kills the prostitute, Jezebel, this and that. Why?
Yeah.
So the moment you get power, you start. It's a killing spree now.
Mohammed, peace be upon
Pause. He is contradicting himself within
Yeah.
just 1 minute so blatantly. He just described Jesus in the Islamic narrative as much better and makes much more sense, not because of the things that Jesus did in his lifetime when he was here before he ascended to heaven, according to the Islamic narrative, but because of what he will do when he comes back. And when he comes back, he will have power. He will have power given to him by Allah to come and to take out the Dajjal and to have the great power to kill the pigs and destroy the cross and so on. This is why Jesus is much better within the Islamic context. That's what he said. That's what he just said within just 1 minute, within this very same minute. Now he's suddenly saying that the Christian narrative of Jesus is actually nonsensical, and Jesus is not virtuous and not brave in Christianity, because when he was here, he was all peaceful and forgiving and docile and didn't do anything. But when he comes back, then he will be powerful, and he will do justice and destruction and this and that. Excuse me. First off, the New Testament narrative, the biblical, the Christian narrative, is the only narrative where we actually have a coherent depiction of Jesus when he was alive and when he comes back. Your Islamic narrative is very, very limited and rests a little bit on what Christians say, but by the standards you just gave us, how in the world is Jesus different in the biblical narrative from how he was in the Christian narrative, or how he is in the Islamic narrative? Why is he in the Islamic narrative so much better and more virtuous, but not in the Christian narrative? You just said the very same thing.
Yeah, guys, did you catch that? Because that's something to share everywhere. Hijab,
So
right in front of
stupid.
everyone's face, just said,
Retard.
oh, Jesus is so great in Islam because when he returns, unlike when he was here the first time, when he returns, he's going to conquer the Antichrist, he's going to slaughter, blah, 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 blah. You see, he's so much more based in Islam. And then he turns right around and says, the Jesus of the Bible is a contradiction because when he was here, he was all docile and he didn't want to offend anyone and he never hurt anyone's feelings. What are you talking about? There's a reason they wanted to kill him. He picked fights with hypocrites and leaders everywhere he went, right? That's why they wanted him dead, right? So he wasn't just docile and so on. And then when he comes, he's coming back to judge the world. And so he's here, he's not going around subjugating. Then when he returns, he's going to fight and judge. Wait a minute, that's exactly what Islam teaches. And Hijab literally just said it. He literally just said it about Islam. And then he says, you see, Jesus is a little weakling. It's a contradiction. It's a contradiction. He's not conquering, but later he's conquering. That's a contradiction. And I have to point out, this is a good point to read Knowledge North's response, because he brings out something important here. Something else that's important. I mentioned it earlier, but let's go ahead and check it out here.
I just want to simplify it very, very briefly, very, very, very short. So Mohammed Hijab just said, in Islam, Jesus is actually brave and virtuous and makes more sense because although he didn't do anything when he was alive, or when he was here the first time, he will come back and he will be very strong. This is why Jesus is good in Islam. However, in Christianity, Jesus is not that virtuous and brave and doesn't make much sense because when he was here, he didn't do much, but when he comes back, he will be strong and all that.
Yeah.
You realize how stupid that is?
Complete hypocrisy. So complete stupidity and hypocrisy. In other words, hey, I will blast away at the Jesus of Islam using my argument that I'm using against Christianity. If for 1 second you use the same argument against Islam, I would have to say Jesus of Islam is not virtuous, but I don't want to say that. So that's one point. And here's the other. We'll get to it. He says that, I think, in a follow-up comment. But so Knowledge North. So Knowledge North is a Muslim. Friends with Saajid Lipham, but says Mohammed Hijab does not represent Islam. His speech in the below QuickTime clip is heretical on several levels. So they're actually saying Mohammed Hijab's speech, I don't know if they're calling him a heretic, they're saying his speech is heretical. The New Testament description of Jesus is largely affirmed by Islam. His modesty, gentleness, and forbearance, which Mohammed Hijab blasphemously derides as docility and placidity. He's saying he's accusing him of heretical claims, and blasphemous claims are not only virtuous characteristics, but are as Allah and his messenger Muhammad described him. Your likeness, Abu Bakr, is to Isa, who said, if you punish them, they are your servants, and if you forgive them, you are almighty wise. And Jesus said, and Allah has made me kind to my mother and has made me neither arrogant nor obstinate. As for Jesus' return, Islam, like Christian scripture, affirms that he will be at war with Gog and Magog, slay the Antichrist, and enforce Allah's law upon the earth. In other words, he's being consistent here, saying, hey, as far as Jesus doing one thing when he's here and then what he's going to be like in his return, in Islam, it's the same basic pattern as the Christian scripture, which Mohammed Hijab just blasted. And enforce Allah's law on the earth. So at the very least, a Muslim is expected to be agnostic and respectful as regards the New Testament, wherein it does not conflict with the final testament of the Quran. And at most, we see the biblical portrayal of Jesus more or less mirrored in Islamic scripture too. To laud a former pornographer like Andrew Tate above a prophet of God, let alone one of the great prophets, the Messiah born to the chaste Virgin Mary, is not Quranic, but satanic. Frankly, it's Talmudic. Uh-oh. You know, it's funny. He said his words are heretical, blasphemous, satanic, and then he gives what for the Muslim community would be like the biggest insult. It's Talmudic, which is funny because the Quran quotes the Talmud as authoritative revelation from Allah. Yeah. That's funny. Frankly, it's Talmudic, and we seek refuge in Allah from such blasphemies. So you've got that. Then you've got
I don't even get it. What exactly is Talmudic about it?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering too. Oh, no, I can't see. I can't see. It's not showing me the comments here because I'm not logged in. Let me actually pull it up on... I'll just read it because I don't even remember my password to get in there. So I got to read it off my laptop. Let's see. He had a follow-up comment. What was it? Oh, okay, here we go. So this is Knowledge North, and anyone who's looking at his page can see what he posted after this. And he said, note also how Mohammed Hijab has adopted a classic trope of 20th century Orientalists. They'd say that when the Prophet was weak in Mecca, he was forgiving and tolerant. But when he attained power in Medina, he became a violent warlord. Mohammed Hijab has judged the New Testament Jesus by the same mean-spirited standard. In other words, calling him a hypocrite. You got that? You got that? Guys, did you catch that? Yeah, so Mohammed Hijab saying, what? When you don't have political power, then you don't fight, but later on when you get political power, you fight? Was that what Jesus and Christianity is like? What a little weakling. You don't fight when you're weak and outnumbered, but later on when you're powerful, then you're going to fight? It's a contradiction. It's a contradiction. Even though Jesus in Islam is the exact same, except far more of a coward. He's not willing to face death and so on. So that's one massive point. The other is, if you're saying, oh, when you're weak and outnumbered, you don't fight, but later on when you have an army, you fight, that shows that if you're saying that makes you a coward, that's exactly what Muhammad did when he's the persecuted prophet in Mecca. Don't fight, guys, don't fight. To you be your religion, to me be my religion. God will judge, but let's not fight. Later on when he has the army, it's everyone submit or die. So Muhammad stands condemned as a sniveling little coward, according to the standard Mohammed Hijab just laid down. And that's not according to us. That's according to other Muslims. That's according to other Muslims who aren't on the let's just mindlessly agree with any stupid thing some dawah guy says. These are so. And the point is, there are actually people like Knowledge North and others who are looking at this going, guys, how do we get like this? How do we get to where we'll just cheer for any stupid, blasphemous, satanic nonsense that a dawah guy says because he's on our side, and so we'll just mindlessly agree with everything he says? How is our community like this? There's a problem here, and it is a problem because Mohammed Hijab, millions of followers. Knowledge North, not so much. Why? He's not running around, hey, me strong than you, me strong than you. Andrew Tate, we love Andrew Tate, him strong. What?
Knowledge North makes some good points, although eventually he's a little bit deluded and plays into some weird ideas as well. However, I would suggest for more recognition for your ideas, Knowledge North, to go out there and to start by yelling, shouting, showing your face, shouting, going on stage, taking your shirt off, saying, "Take this, you sons of bitches," and then.
That's
Things
what
like that in order to be famous. So
that's what's funny, and I have to say there are Muslims I've seen Muslims doing that. In other words, I've seen like ordinarily calm Muslims who are kind of recognizing, oh, this is what works in dawah, and they start acting like more aggressive and more hijab-like. And so this dude is just wreaking havoc in the dawah community. Everything he's saying that is impressive to his fans is stupid nonsense to other people. And he gives us the opportunity to expose this stupid nonsense. And it's forcing other people who want to compete for attention to have to adopt the same methodologies. And then the saner voices, they're getting drowned out. And this is it's weird. I said it before, like I think I just said it like yesterday or whatever. I'm like on in the sense that you root for the underdog and the guys who are like completely outmatched. You're rooting for like Sajid and Knowledge North and so on, who are just they're all around. They're better people. They're better human beings. They're better people. But from the perspective of wanting Islam to crumble and destroy itself from within, you got to be rooting for Hijab and Ali Dawah and Sheikh Uthman and Hakikachu and all the new guys, because they're look at the division they're causing with Islam, and looking how anyone who tries to work together with anyone else, they just completely destroy it. They destroy it, isolating Islam and making it look increasingly more insane. And this is Dawah. This is Dawah. Powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. Take a couple comments and then watch finish that clip, see what else he was saying about Andrew Tate. Momo interviews King Arthur fighting a dragon. Ha! Think I'm going to pay for special effects for a dragon. Isn't it blasphemous for a Muslim to put Muhammad over Jesus, since Jesus is the word of Allah made flesh and Allah's direct creation? He would say he's just talking about the biblical Jesus, even though, as we pointed out, every criticism he's raised applies to the Islamic Jesus as well, and even more, because the Islamic Jesus refuses to be crucified and has someone else take his place, even a young guy.
He's a weakling.
I love the cross on apostate prophet.
I love it too.
Does look cool. Is there even a concept of spiritual power in Islam? At best, they have the sihr, right? Which is supposed to be forbidden. No, the spirit can strengthen people. The spirit is said to strengthen people. Jesus ascended. Muhammad's corpse became rotten as described by his followers' writings, contrary to expectations of miraculous preservation.
That's pretty Islamophobic.
Human babies in the womb are not protected by unalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the Declaration. So I think there's a criticism of abortion saying, that would be part of the debate. Do unborn babies have the rights guaranteed, the rights that are said to be unalienable rights in the Declaration of Independence? But that's part of the debate that's going on.
Babies are weaklings.
Yes. What are you going to do? You're going to be a baby and not fight, but later on when you're big and strong, then you're going to fight? Ha ha, you hypocrite. You can't be described. You can't be described as virtuous. The fact that Jesus is so contradictory to Mojab's brave idea of who Jesus should have been makes the Isaiah 53 prophecy, lamb to the slaughter, even more powerful.
He's really overusing the term contradiction and contradictory. He really needs to calm down with his usage of that word.
Yeah, it's embarrassingly bad, but my goodness, do we love it. Mohammed Sneako, can you please? I'm begging you, please do like 10 more shows, like probably once per month. Please, once per month, go visit Mohammed Hijab. It could be in a restaurant. It could be like in a hotel room. And just get the guy talking. Bring up Alex Jones, bring up Jesus, bring up Andrew Tate, and just let that guy go. Just let him go as long as he wants. That would be awesome. Love the show. Learn so much from you guys. It's what we do. Hilaria says, Oh, does Paradox transfer CK3 games forward as well? This is starting to sound like some Mike Winger stuff. Why did I come back to Europe's testes?
Yeah, I was pointing out that Europe doesn't have big testicles.
Yeah. Do you see Islam imploding in time to save the UK and Europe? Yeah. Ironically, I think it's going to implode in a bunch of Muslim countries before it implodes in European places. In other words, it might be this weird situation where as Islam is crumbling from within, because it already is, in Muslim countries, it's going to be growing and expanding in non-Muslim countries. And so it's going to be this interesting situation. The Third Orange said, been a while, but wondering if AP knows about the fist fight that broke out at the Turkish parliament about a week ago.
No, I don't know about it. I don't follow it very much, but it's just violence is always part of Turkey, and just fighting instead of talking and reasoning is part of it. That's what you get when you have a culture where thinking is not very much appreciated.
Mm-hmm. You heard it here, folks. More racism. If the trajectory continues as it is, I'm going to choose the cow. Mohammed Hijab is going to make lots of people choose the cow, and for that we love him. Yep. What Bible are you using? And AP, what do you mean? On the screen? The passage from Matthew was the ESV.
You see, there are so many Bibles. There's a version.
And then John 2, I just used NIV. Those are the ones I normally use NASB, ESV, or NIV in.
Why are there so many versions? You see, there's only one Quran, but there are so many Bible versions.
and AP, I'm still looking forward to reading nothing, finding Jesus. Keep up with the good work for both. That would be a funny title for your biography. Reading nothing, finding Jesus.
That should be seeking nothing. But yes.
No, reading nothing. They're saying you don't read, and so how you found Jesus anyway.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but seeking nothing would work too. Reading nothing is funny too. All I do is watch videos.
You see?
Seeking nothing, finding Jesus would be hilarious title.
Well, Andrew Tate said that losers read books, and books are for losers, and real men don't read books. They learn from life. So that's what I do.
Oh, okay. Yeah, she did fix it. She did. I say either one will work. Reading nothing, finding Jesus, that works because it's the perfect description of AP. And then seeking nothing, finding Jesus would work as well, although it would have a little bit of a different meaning. Second coming, jizya for everyone. No, he abolishes the jizya when he returns.
Yes.
Sneako is going to defect within the next week. We'll see. It seems like he's pretty thoroughly... It seems like he's recognizing the insanity of the stuff that he's encountering, so it is going to be fun to watch. Since he's saying it's blasphemous to mock Christ's patience and peaceful virtues, is he inadvertently admitting that Jesus Christ is God? No, they have in other words, if you're saying blasphemous, isn't this an insult to God? And no, because you could say if you're insulting God's prophets, that would be insulting to God, because those are the ones that God has sent. So, when they came to arrest Jesus, he literally knocked the whole lot of the soldiers with the words, "I am he," because he's strong in the Christian sources and a little weakling in Islam. Satanic Dawa, great band name. That would be fun, Satanic Dawa. And I choose you, Akikachu. Let's see, two more, and then we'll finish up this little spot. We don't ace a problem with it at all. Pedophilia is very relative. We just have a different meaning of what being a child means. Yet that's his response to pedophilia in Islam. Seeking Austrian painter find. There's your book title. Seeking Austrian painter finding Jesus. That'd be a good one.
That's fun.
That'd be a good one. All right, we're at the end of this clip, I think. Let's see.
Forgave a prostitute.
No, I mean, what has Islam? He forgave everyone. In Mecca. He said everyone was forgiven.
No, it was Allah.
Whoa! Did you see that? He said he forgave everyone. Another lie. Wait a minute.
Not true.
Yeah, he said, so Sneako is saying Jesus forgave a prostitute and so on. And here you have Mohammed Hijab. Muhammad forgave everyone, and he had the political power.
Killing spree now.
Muhammad, peace be upon him, he forgave a prostitute.
Oh no, Muhammad.
No, I mean,
What are you talking about, Muhammad?
He forgave everyone. Went to Mecca. He said everyone was forgiven.
No, it was Allah. Sorry.
When he was in power. He was in power and he chose to forgive.
Yeah.
Their narrative of Jesus Christ is not attractive. I'm sorry to
talking
say.
about-
It's not attractive. All right, so this clip goes on a little bit more, but we'll go ahead and stop the clip there. I don't want to watch the whole Sajid video. Just watch a minute or two of what Sajid said. But what he said right there, AP, did you catch that? What did
Not
he say?
attractive.
He said, guys, did you hear him say Muhammad forgave everyone when he took Mecca? He forgave everyone. He said that, right?
Yeah.
And did you also hear during this exact same live stream saying, read the Sirah, read the Sirah? He said it. Go to the Sirah, read the Sirah. Okay, let's read the Sirah about Muhammad taking Mecca. And you have to keep in mind, Muhammad's ultimate goal with the people like of his own tribe and so on was for them to submit to him. So once they submit to him, that's what he really likes. There were people who insulted him that he didn't really care about, and they got a little bit different treatment here. So here you have, and this is how Mohammed Hijab reads this. The apostle had instructed his commanders when they entered Mecca only to fight those who resisted them, except a small number who were to be killed. So Mohammed Hijab say they had instructed his commanders when they entered Mecca only to fight those who resist them. You see, he's forgiving everyone. Let's keep reading. Except a small number who were to be killed even if they were found beneath the curtains of the Kaaba. Wait a minute. He said kill certain people even if they're found beneath the curtains of the Kaaba, even if they're hiding?
Wait a minute.
So only kill people who resisted, except other people that you kill no matter what they're doing, even if they're not resisting, even if they're hiding. Even if they're hiding, kill them anyway. What did Hijab say? He forgave everyone. And he's saying, go to the Sirah. Let's read. Except a small number who were to be killed, even if they were found beneath the curtains of the Kaaba. Among them was, this is what AP brought up earlier, Abdullah bin Saad, brother of blah, 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 blah. The reason he ordered him to be killed was that he had been a Muslim and used to write down revelation. Then he apostatized and returned to Quraysh and fled to Uthman bin Affan, whose foster brother he was. So this guy had the advantage of being the foster brother of Uthman. So guys, again, this guy apostatized because he realized Muhammad was letting him edit the Quran. This guy had a knack for making the Quran better. There are parts of the Quran that are in the Quran today that came from Abdullah ibn Abi Sar. They're in the Quran today. This guy's edits are in the Quran today.
Wait a minute, what did you say?
And he realized that Islam is false, that Muhammad's a false prophet because Muhammad was letting him edit the revelation. So he became an apostate. And so when Muhammad returns, Abdullah is willing to submit here. Just got to preserve his life. Let's see. The latter hid him. So Uthman hid him until he brought him to the apostle after the situation in Mecca was tranquil and asked that he might be granted immunity. So this is Uthman asking Muhammad, hey, can you grant him immunity? They allege that the apostle remained silent for a long time till finally he said yes. Eventually he said yes. You see, he showed mercy. When Uthman had left, he said to his companions who were sitting around him, I kept silent so that one of you might get up and strike off his head. One of the Ansar said, then why didn't you give me a sign, O apostle of God? He answered that a prophet does not kill by pointing. He's like, you guys are supposed to know that I wanted him dead. I'm not going to give you a signal.
You idiots.
You idiot morons. So guys, think about this. He has Uthman. Muhammad, can you please let this guy live? Can you please let him? He's my foster brother. Can you please let him live? Muhammad sits there waiting for one of his companions to jump up and hack the guy's head off. And when no one does anything, he doesn't want to give a signal. So finally he says, yes, I'll let you live. And then he's mad at his followers for being more merciful than him because he wanted to kill the guy. Again, why does he want to kill the guy? Why does he want to kill the guy? Because the guy recognized that he's a false prophet, became an apostate. Another, bottom here, another was Abdullah bin Qatal of Banu Taym bin Ghalib. He had become a Muslim, and the apostle sent him to collect the poor tax in company with one of the Ansar. He had with him a freed slave who served him. He was a Muslim. When they halted, he ordered the latter to kill a goat for him and prepare some food and went to sleep. So he tells a freed slave, he's still treating the freed slave like a slave, and he says, hey, we're going to sleep now. Kill a goat and prepare me some food, and went to sleep. When he woke up, and he found that the man had done nothing. So he attacked and killed him and apostatized. So this guy became an apostate. He's in race. Like anything would cause these guys to become apostates back then. All right, so far, you say, okay, he's an apostate, so that's a death sentence, and he killed a Muslim, so that would be a death sentence. And so you might say, okay, well, it's justified killing that guy, but look at what it says. He had two singing girls, Fartana and her friend, who used to sing satirical songs about the apostles, so he ordered that they should be killed with him. Who's he talking about here? Is he just talking about the people who are apostates and who committed murder? No, he's talking about singing girls who made fun of him. They had to die too. So he ordered that they should be killed with him. I thought he forgave Mohammed Hijab literally said he forgave everyone and says, go to the Sirah. We go to the Sirah. Muhammad is saying, kill all these people who made fun of me. These aren't people. If you're saying Muhammad has this great attribute of forgiveness and mercy, which you are supposed to exhibit when you are in a position of power over people, well, he gets power over these people and he says, kill them. For what? Making songs about me. So
the thing is, when Mohammed Hijab says go to the Sirah, you're not supposed to actually go to the Sirah.
Yeah, it's Islam's 99-1 rule. If you know Sneako and none of his fans are ever going to go to the Sirah, you can say whatever you want. So another was Al-Huwairith, blah, 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 one of those who used to insult him in Mecca. It's another person. He's saying, kill this guy too. Another was Mikyas bin Hubaba, because he had killed an Ansari who had killed his brother accidentally and returned to Quraysh as a polytheist. And Sarah, freed slave of one of the Banu Abdul Muttalib and Ikrimah, Abu Jahl. Sarah had insulted him in Mecca. Why does Sarah have to die? Because she insulted him. And so you have, and by the way, some of these people survived. Some of these people were later granted amnesty and so on when they captured them and so on. But I mean, think about this. Hijab says, hey, once Muhammad had power over people, then he showed forgiveness and mercy by forgiving all of them. And you actually go there. You actually go to the sources, which the sources, he said, go to the Sirah. We go to the Sirah. And Muhammad is saying, yeah, all these people who insulted me, they have to die. They have to die. Even though I have political power over them, I have authority over them. And now I didn't before. Keep in mind, he didn't before. So guys, think about this. Hijab is saying, look at Jesus in the Christian scriptures. He's all docile. He's a little weakling. Even though he faces death, he challenges the religious establishment and so on, flips over the tables of the money change, does all this stuff. But he's a pathetic little weakling. And only later at his second coming, he's going to judge people and fight and so on. And he says, what a little weakling, even though it's a pretty similar picture in Islam, except much worse as far as Jesus being a coward. But then Knowledge North points out that's exactly what they say about Muhammad. And look at Hijab here. He's saying, if you show mercy when you don't have power, that's not mercy. If you show forgiveness when you don't have power, that's not forgiveness. So Muhammad, when he's in Mecca, doesn't have power over these girls making fun of him and so on. So he lets them slide. There's nothing he can do about it. When he has authority over the people who made fun of him, he says, go hunt. I don't care if these people are hiding, go kill them all. And how does Mohammed Hijab say? What does Mohammed Hijab say happened? He forgave them all. Because he's talking to Sneako, and Sneako doesn't know any of this. This is dawah. This is the champion of dawah. This is his method. It's always been his method. Massive amounts of cherry picking, massive amounts of straw men. Everywhere he goes, everything's being misrepresented, lying, endless lies, lying about the Christian sources, lying about the Muslim sources, lying about everything, all to impress some idiots who are watching this on Rumble. That's dawah. That's dawah, ladies and gentlemen. I don't even know what to do at this point. Wow. All right, we'll watch a minute or two. We'll watch a minute or two of Sajid just to get. I haven't seen what Sajid said. You said you watched a little bit of it. We will check out. We'll check out a little bit of it.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome all viewers. Inshallah, today in this video I would like to clarify some things regarding the teachings of Islam in relation to Jesus, or Prophet Isa alayhi salam. And this is following a particular video clip that...
That's funny, I was just thinking, and why do you have to do that? Because Mohammed Hijab, we have to clean up the messes that he constantly creates. Yeah, you do, don't you?
Has gone viral. If we look at this tweet here, it says, Mohammed Hijab says Andrew Tate has better characteristics than Jesus in Christianity. Quote, the character of Andrew Tate has certain things that the New Testament Jesus doesn't have. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. So let's take a look at the clip. And
what are you laughing at, AP?
I feel bad for him, but it's also funny because to see somebody who is so serious like Saajid Lipham being subjected to dumb stuff that Mohammed Hijab says, and then sitting there and going, again, I have to. Why would he do this? And then going, so I seek refuge from the devil with Allah. It's just so funny to see his reactions to this stuff.
It is funny, and again, you know, you want to root for the underdog. You usually want to root for people who have better manners and so on. But the situation these guys are in, they're going around cleaning up Mohammed Hijab's messes like Aisha was cleaning up the stains on Muhammad's garments after Dia al-Kalbi visited. It's just a sucky situation to be in. It's a messed up situation.
I'll share some thoughts, inshallah, as we go through it.
Hey! By the way, little side note, but this has to be pointed out. If Mohammed Hijab, who doesn't actually go out and fight, he makes sure he stays safe while other people are actually going out and fighting jihad, and then he's going around praising, "Oh, you're not a real man unless you're going and fighting." He never really fights ever at any point in his life, and probably doesn't intend to. Coward by his definition, not according to me. Not according to me. I don't think you're a coward if you don't go out and physically fight. He said that. He's saying that. But think about this. Mohammed Hijab has a huge number of followers. Sajid has significantly fewer by comparison. Sajid is standing up to Mohammed Hijab. Knowledge North is standing up to Mohammed Hijab and Ali Dawa, who dwarf them based on their number of followers and their number of trolls and the number of people they will send after them. Sajid and Knowledge North are standing up against a far more powerful force in terms of what they have at their disposal, and doing it just for the sake of protecting the ummah from the nonsense that they're seeing. So, from that perspective, who's braver? Saajid Lipham or Mohammed Hijab and Ali Dawa? Who's braver?
Saajid Lipham.
Yeah, Sajid knows when he goes after Mohammed Hijab, Hijab's fans are all going to come after him. Shame on you! You're siding with the kuffar. Look at you! You're siding with the kuffar against the true. You're just jealous. You're jealous. You're a weakling. You're a pathetic little weakling. Who's braver? Who's actually braver here? Who's a coward? Who's a coward and who's brave here in this situation? Hijab is a sniveling little coward according to his own definition. And Sajid is obviously braver, even according to Mohammed Hijab's definition, if you take out the fighting, because neither one of them are fighting. All right.
Wallahi, our narrative of Jesus is so much more...
Yes.
It's so much more practical, so much more virtuous than their narrative. That's what I'm going to say. Our Jesus is so...
By the way, so much more practical. The Islamic Jesus, who just walks around, what does the Islamic Jesus even get done? Like, what does he accomplish? Jesus, changed the world. He changed the world. That's not according to me. You got people, when people like Richard Dawkins and so on are saying, yeah, and I'm a cultural Christian. He's saying he understands that Jesus' teachings have impacted the world for everyone. But you're talking about practically speaking. Muslims, it's not practical going around saying things like Jesus did. Christianity took over the Roman Empire following those teachings. It took over the Roman Empire through those teachings. If they just imagine if the Jesus followers come out, we go in the future. There's going to be this guy named Mohammed Hijab, and he says you're not brave unless you go out and start killing people. You've just been wiped out and wouldn't have won against anything. And then you've got Allah in the Quran saying he helped the true followers of Jesus until they became uppermost. And which followers of Jesus became uppermost? Which ones? The ones who are preaching what the Jesus that we found in the New Testament. Those are the ones that Allah helped, that Mohammed Hijab mocks. And this is why Knowledge Door says, this is blasphemous nonsense here. Anyway, good stuff.
Much more virtuous. It's the kind of man any young person would want to follow. Their Jesus, they may, in their own religious context, want to follow him. But in the meantime, they're watching Andrew Tate because, in a way, Andrew Tate, the character of Andrew Tate, has certain things that the New Testament Jesus doesn't have.
Oh, man.
That's the truth.
They're going to be angry on that one.
It doesn't matter.
Who's going to be angry?
That's the truth. That's the truth.
Doesn't matter.
Effectively.
So, mashallah, it's interesting.
They're saying, so Sneako said they're going to be angry about that. Who? Christians? You have Muslims who are angry about that. You have Muslims who are angry about that.
Look at Sajid's response here now.
Let's see.
Interesting how you can see Sneako, at the very least, has like this sort of, I don't know, innate common sense to understand how problematic such a statement like that is. But let's...
That was awesome, dude. That was awesome. He's like, I mean, think about that. It's weird that, because he knows that Sneako doesn't know anything about what they're talking about. He just calls it innate common sense. Innate common sense. He's just got innate common sense that he sees how problematic this is. That's funny. This is like what we were saying before. Like when Sneako is the voice of reason and common sense in your gathering. Guys, what does that say about dawah? When you can sit with two of the most prominent da'is on the planet, if not the most prominent da'is on the planet, and another guy with them, and you've got Sneako, who he just graduated from doing, whatever he's doing with all his little cam girls and stuff. And that guy is like massively more common. What does that say about dawah? Like, what does that say about what it's become? Pretty hilarious, I have to say.
Analyze this. So Mohammed Hijab is saying our narrative, meaning the Muslim Islamic narrative of who Jesus, of who Isa alayhi salam was. He's saying it's more practical and virtuous than the Christian narrative. Now, the thing is, the main difference between Jesus in Christianity in comparison to Jesus in Islam, it's not the actual character of Jesus in terms of like his qualities. In both Christianity and Islam, Jesus is seen as a merciful figure. The main difference is that in Islam, we believe that Jesus did not tell people to worship him, that he never claimed to literally be the son of Allah and part of a trinity. We believe.
Hey, by the way, this is he's making an interesting and good point there. So Mohammed Hijab is blasting the Jesus that Christians believe in for not being virtuous or not nearly as virtuous as the Jesus in the Muslim sources, and certainly not as virtuous as Muhammad. And Sajid points out that the difference between Jesus in Islam and Jesus in Christianity is not his character or his virtue. It's that Christians believe he's God. And of course, the other difference is in Christianity, I don't know if he's going to say this, but in Christianity, Jesus dies on the cross for sins. In other words, as far as the character, they're not objecting to Jesus' character in Islam. They're objecting to the claim that he's divine and that he died for sins. Those are the objections. In other words, Jesus' character or his level of virtue are not up for criticism, according to Sajid. And I would say that's actually a good point. Whereas what does Mohammed Hijab blast Jesus on? His character. So interesting point. Good point, Sajid.
That Jesus, like all of the prophets throughout history, worshipped Allah alone and called his people to worship Allah alone. But aside from that, there are a lot of similarities between the Christian view of Jesus and the Muslim view of Jesus. And as much as some Muslims over the years have clearly followed in the footsteps of this Andrew Tate character and tried to embody it and imitate it, I still never would have imagined they would go to the extreme of actually comparing him to Jesus in this way. To go on.
Yeah, so Jesus, I still don't even know what he's talking about. Hey, Andrew Tate, that's why people are still going to Andrew Tate. Why? Why? Because he's thumping his chest and bragging about his Bugatti, and he was a kickboxer, like a kickboxer. Anyway.
And say that the character of Andrew Tate has characteristics that Jesus, as described in the New Testament, doesn't have. This is something that is so disgusting, unbefitting, unsuitable, unwise, appalling, I mean, clearly,
That's in addition to blasphemous, satanic, the stuff that Knowledge North said.
This is why I like Saajid Lipham. He doesn't like me, but I like him, and I watch his videos because he has some sense of integrity and some common sense, and he doesn't just go with whatever the Dawa guys are pushing because they just want to approve of whatever they're saying, despite how ignorant and how dishonest and how shockingly weird it is. This guy actually says what lots of people are thinking, and he gets a lot of backlash from the Dawa crowds and from the Muslims who follow people like Mohammed Hijab. But he points out what needs to be pointed out, and I respect that.
Yeah. In other words, what you could say is, even though we disagree with these guys' views and so on, here he exhibits integrity and courage, a virtue. So
Yes.
we can respect him for being a significantly more virtuous person than Mohammed Hijab, even if we disagree with him on other things. That's a good assessment.
fortunately, many Muslims have been following this character of Andrew Tate rather than following the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
But keep in mind, this is another problem for what Mohammed Hijab said. So we've looked at various layers of what he's saying. He's saying, oh, but Jesus doesn't fight here, and then later he fights in Christianity. So you see, he's a pathetic little weakling, not brave. Even though, what does he do in Islam? He just walked around preaching at first, and then he's going to come back and fight. So the same objection would apply. You're comparing him to Muhammad's bravery, but then you lie about a bunch of things, saying he's always fighting on the front lines and so on. That's false. That's a lie. Mohammed Hijab knows it's a lie. Then he's saying Muhammad, when he took Mecca, he forgave everyone. That is a lie. He said, go to the Sirah. We went to the Sirah. It shows that Mohammed Hijab is a liar. And then you have this right here. Let's go back because this is good here.
I mean, clearly, unfortunately, many Muslims have been following this character of Andrew Tate.
That's the point. And what does Hijab say? Hey, since there are Christians following Andrew Tate, again, like what level of serious Christians? But since you have Christians following Andrew Tate, this shows that there's something attractive about Andrew Tate that they're not finding in their religion. There's something missing from Jesus that makes them go to Andrew Tate. Okay, Muslims are going to Andrew Tate, Hijab. Sajid just pointed out, what are you talking about? You got Muslims flocking to Andrew Tate. You guys lost your minds when you got the top G on your side, the pornographer, the guy with the Bugattis. You guys lost your minds what does that mean? According to Hijab's reasoning, that means you weren't finding something in your own religion, and so you went to Andrew Tate.
Oh, by the way, they are currently counting at least 49 victims in the human trafficking case against Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate. So this guy is being now brutally cracked down on with different cases for human trafficking. The sex trafficker, who also for years admitted that he's a sex trafficker, he just didn't really know that it's a crime. But this guy was praised by them for being a Muslim and for being a representative of Muslims now. And Muslims have been going crazy about it and following this guy. But yeah, as you just pointed out, Mohammed Hijab didn't really think this through because according to his logic, they went for that guy, for Andrew Tate, because they couldn't find something like him, something great like him in Islam, or among the Islamic figures. Yeah, this is what they look up to.
Yeah. So in other words, you got young Muslims. They're looking around at their Dawah guys, their own prophet, their own religious leaders, and so on. They're like, no, we want to go follow the top G. All right. Thanks, Mohammed Hijab.
Rather than following the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because this cartoonish alpha male character that Andrew Tate played, propelling him to such popularity, is not the character of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam was described as having so much haya, so much pious shyness and bashfulness. He was described as having more of that than a veiled virgin girl. He said alayhi salatu wasalam,
Prophet Muhammad is like a veiled little virgin girl. Yeah.
This is true. This is an actual hadith where Muhammad is described as being shy as a veiled virgin girl.
But Allah is
this
not
is
shy. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, but this is a question. You should go to Mohammed Hijab and ask him, hey, Mohammed Hijab, do you think it is good? Do you think it is virtuous? Do you think it is ideal to be shy like a little virgin girl? What do you think about that? Because everything that he says all the time in public seems to contradict that notion.
Yep. Yeah, and so normally, and we would too. We would normally go to all these other passages in the hadiths about look how messed up Muhammad is and so on. But hey, if that's what your authentic narrations are describing Muhammad as, and Hijab is saying, our prophet, he's real strong, top G, he's so strong. It's like a little veiled virgin girl. What about that? Jesus.
That's Muhammad.
That gentleness is not found in anything except that it beautifies it. And it's not removed from anything except that it disgraces it. And even though he was the most masculine of men, he was also very gentle. He was very
Even though he was the most masculine of men, he could be described as a veiled little virgin girl.
merciful.
Shyer than a veiled little virgin girl.
He was very humble. So the implications of him saying such a statement on the stream is so beyond problematic, it's shocking. And the clip isn't even finished yet, so let's continue.
I'm sorry to say, is a contradictory figure. Because you've got him in when he's got no power, yes, he's acting in a very forgiving, you could call it way, very placid way, very docile way. Yes. But then when he comes back,
the biblical narrative.
When he comes back in the book of Revelation, what does he do? He kills the prostitute, Jezebel, this and that. Why?
Yeah.
What, so the moment you get power, you start. It's a killing spree now.
SubhanAllah. So there's two things I'll say about.
I'm wondering. What are you laughing at?
Look at
Wait,
Sajid's
that. Hang on. I missed it. Hang on.
Look at Sajid's reaction.
Why? Yeah. What, so the moment you get power, you start. It's a killing spree now.
SubhanAllah. So there's two things I'll say.
I love this guy. Man.
Oh boy, he has to. Oh, by the way, so Sajid shared this video on Twitter. You can find Sajid. You can find this video on Twitter or on YouTube. But he posted it on Twitter. Mohammed Hijab actually replied. He said, really? in the video, I'm talking about the New Testament Jesus, not our understanding of him. Otherwise, the statement would be kufr akbar, major disbelief. Your title is not only misleading, but also potentially slanderous. And Mohammed Hijab loves to sue people. Your title is not only misleading, but also potentially slanderous. At any rate, I forgive you for your indiscretion.
This only proves that Mohammed Hijab is a complete idiot because we have just heard it. We have just heard it. In his videos, Saajid Lipham is explicitly pointing out that he is speaking about the New Testament Jesus.
You're slandering me. I'll sue you. You're slandering me.
He acknowledges that Mohammed Hijab is talking about the New Testament Jesus, and he says that this is a ludicrous, terrible thing to say because the New Testament Jesus is not essentially so different, and we basically rely on the New Testament Jesus. Saajid Lipham is here clearly pointing out that comparing Andrew Tate to the New Testament Jesus is a horrible thing to do.
Mm-hmm. And then you've got Mohammed Hijab. Oh, it's slanderous, by the way, which is why I used the same title for the live stream. He says the title is slanderous. I use the same title for my live stream since he's calling it slanderous. But what did he not compare? Did he not compare Jesus and Andrew Tate? He did it. We saw it. So how are you going to say this is slanderous? Oh, but isn't it interesting that Mohammed Hijab instantly, I'm a victim here. Look, I'm being persecuted. Now the disturbing thing, again, Mohammed Hijab's response, just his little reply to Sajid. Sajid got 664 likes on his video calling out Mohammed Hijab for, like insane level. Like if you heard this from a regular guy, you're sitting at McDonald's and you heard some random Muslim saying this stuff, you'd be like, this guy's an idiot, man. How does he not know anything he's talking about? How is he completely misrepresenting everything like this? But this is not coming from some random guy. This is coming from one of the champions of Dawah. He calls himself that. He calls himself the champ. Anyway, Sajid 600. Oh, it went up. 665 likes. Muhammad over 3,600. Muhammad Hijab over 3,600.
This is what is so disheartening.
You're completely outmanned here.
And this is what's so disheartening and so terrible about social media, where you see that Saajid Lipham is genuinely making sense and also appealing to common sense. It is a commonsensical response that he has. Mohammed Hijab's response to Saajid Lipham is not only once again appalling, it is also false. It is objectively false, objectively dishonestly false. He is accusing Saajid Lipham of misrepresenting him, but he is actually the one misrepresenting Saajid Lipham's representation of him. But he gets more likes, significantly more likes on social media, simply because he is the guy that he is, the loud, the foul-mouthed, the I'm a monster, I'm the champion guy. It is. I mean, you don't have to be on either one's side to see here that Saajid Lipham is definitely the more rational, the more reasonable guy, and he is actually speaking the truth in this case. Mohammed Hijab is a complete scumbag in comparison, and is not speaking the truth. But that guy gets applauded by the public. This is just this is the situation.
Fun times to be in. It is weird having like these mixed reactions to everything where go Sajid, expose him for that stupid stuff. Go Mohammed Hijab, keep saying this stupid stuff, please. It's weird, right? Like you want him to expose for the stupid stuff, but simultaneously you want him to keep saying this stupid stuff. It's just, it's weird, man. We're in a weird spot right now.
About how terribly messed up this is, what he just said. Firstly, again, there are so many similarities between what Islam teaches about Jesus and what the Christians teach about Jesus. So for us as well, during his life, he was a very merciful figure. In our tradition, Isa alayhi salam wasn't out waging war during his life. Yet,
see, he's a weakling. He's a weakling. He's a pathetic little weakling, the Isa of Islam.
Also, in our tradition, when he comes back, he will kill the Dajjal. He will kill the false Messiah.
It's funny how he gets it like any other person would. Mohammed Hijab just said, oh, you didn't fight then, but you're going to fight in the future. That makes you a pathetic little weakling and a coward. Now let's talk about the Jesus of Islam, who didn't fight at first, but later he'll come back. Ha ha, he's a totally base, superior view of Jesus. You see, we're strong. What a joke, man. Sajid gets it.
The last thing I'll mention is this, which is extremely important. When it comes to the New Testament, a Muslim has three views of it. Number one, anything that is in the New Testament that the Quran and Sunnah, the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, anything that the Quran and Sunnah confirm, then we can say that those things mentioned in the New Testament are true.
Oh, cool. So if the Quran affirms the gospel in general, then you say it's true. Okay, good, because the Quran affirms it. Nice. Thank you, Sajid.
So that's one option. A second option is if the Quran and Sunnah deny something that is in the New Testament, then we can say that that is false.
But not quite, because the Quran affirms the gospel that we have. And so then if the Quran contradicts it, Sajid, then you don't say it's false. I know you do, but you shouldn't. What you should say is, therefore, you're stuck with the Islamic dilemma. The Quran affirms scriptures that it contradicts. That's what you should do. And Sajid, if I've laid this offer out to Fareed and a number of other people, if you want to actually sit down and go through what the Quran says about the scriptures of the Christians and Jews and show us what they really mean, because what they say is not what you're saying. What they say is not what you're saying. So if you're saying Allah meant something totally different, I would love to have you. You could join us live. We will just pull up the verses. I'll say what it sounds like it's saying. You explain what it's really saying and how Allah is saying things in a completely unclear fashion. But open invitation to Muslims, da'is who want to join us to discuss that.
A third option, which is the Quran and Sunnah don't deny or affirm certain things that are in the New Testament.
Guys, that's an important category. I'm assuming he's going to go the same direction of Knowledge North. But you have these three categories. So you have one where the Quran and the Bible agree. That's one category. Then you have another situation where the Quran and the Bible disagree, and he's saying, well, you have to reject the Bible. And then you have to say where the Quran and the Bible don't agree, but they don't disagree. Right? The Quran in other words, the Bible says something and the Quran doesn't say something one way or another. It doesn't give you any indication of whether it's true or not. And what's he going to do with that?
In which case, we can't deny or affirm it. So that being the case, to then criticize and belittle how Jesus is described when the certain things that have been reported in the New Testament could essentially be true. We don't know. Then imagine belittling and criticizing a prophet of Allah. As a Muslim, we believe this. A prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Messiah, Jesus, the son of Mary, saying he's placid and docile, and Andrew Tate has certain characteristics that he doesn't have.
Andrew Tate is more of a man. He's more of a man than this docile little figure.
The New Testament Jesus could only dream of being like Andrew Tate.
Yes, what color was Jesus' Bugatti? Huh? Yeah, he didn't have one. He rode a donkey into Jerusalem, not a Bugatti. Andrew Tate would ride a Bugatti into Jerusalem, you see. He's not a weakling. He's not a pathetic. The fact that this is basically what hijab is doing, right? This is what he's doing. This is funny. Yeah. All right, last few seconds here.
You might actually be criticizing real things about Isa alayhi salam. So I just want to leave it at that. SubhanAllah. I hope many people can sort of read through the lines when it comes to this sort of behavior and these sorts of clips. Some
people can. It's just not most, Sajid. Most are just, it's so great. Mohammed Hijab is saying that Muhammad is better than Jesus, so we just agree. No matter how stupid it is, no matter how much he's contradicting the Islam, no matter how much he's lying, we just cheer for him. That's the crowd you're dealing with, Sajid. And I actually have no idea how you get past that.
I don't even know what to say anymore about these sorts of things. I mean, this is just. I'm speechless. Allah's best.
That was funny. I literally just said, I don't even know what you do. And he's like, I'm speechless. I don't know what to do.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Look how miserable he looks. Look at that.
I think he's not making many posts anymore. He like the last video that he posted before this was like many months ago, and he used to publish new videos all the time. I think the environment and how the dawah has become has really got to him, and he really doesn't like it. And I get it,
You know, it's weird that this just popped into my head when you were talking about like this look on his face, like this look of extreme disappointment, and you're talking about how it's almost like he's giving up, like this. Look at what they're doing. It just reminded me of there was this. We used to build forts in the woods. So this was West Virginia, and behind the trailer park that we lived in, there was all these kids who lived in the trailer park. And behind the trailer park, there's this set of train tracks, and behind that, there's a mountain. But we spent our entire childhoods building forts up in those mountains and stuff. You go build a fort and you get some wood. And there was a Union 76 station that had all these pallets behind it. You could always go take the pallets and use them to build forts and stuff. Anyway, so we'd build forts and so on. And then that fort would get destroyed because other kids would come along and destroy your fort. And anyway, we eventually was looking for a place for a new fort, and we eventually find up on that mountain an old stable, an old like horse or donkey stable. It had 3 stalls and then a separate room and stuff, and it looked like it was just been sitting there rotting for like a century or something like this. Old stable. We're like, oh, we're gonna go build something. We're gonna build something here. Anyway, so we all get our tools and we're going to start working on stuff. And we're going to make an escape door here because we'd all watch Red Dawn like 50 times when the Russians and everyone else invades the U.S. and so on. So you had to be able to run up into the mountains to defend yourself, which is what they did in the movie. So anyway, we're like start building, and we grab all these tools and stuff, and we're like, oh, I'm going to have a window here, and oh, we need an escape hatch to the roof and stuff. And anyway, at some point while we're trying to build stuff, all the other kids, they ended up just going into a frenzy. And at first they're like trying to, again, make escape doors and stuff. But then they just start hacking on everything. And I'm yelling, stop, you're ruining it, right? And they're sitting there with axes and hammers and everything, just like bashing in every direction. And it was like horribly noisy. It's this horribly noisy situation. And I'm saying, guys, you're just destroying it now. We got this awesome place. You're just destroying it. We were going to have the fort of all forts there. And I start yelling, stop. What are you doing? You're destroying it. And finally I was just like, and they wouldn't stop. And I just sat there and looked at it and And I turned around and walked away. I turned around and walked away. That's what Sajid looks like to me right there. Like we were trying to build something, and you guys are just destroying it. And there's too many of you destroying it in every direction, and there's nothing I can do. It doesn't matter how loud I yell. I'm drowned out by the sound of axes and hammers smashing everything. My voice is drowned out. There's nothing I can do here. I'm gone. Yeah. That's what Sajid just reminded me of.
It is like it's like an attribute of a form of depression in a way. It's like learned helplessness, where you just look at the situation, you wait for it to get better, you try and work for it to get better. It just doesn't get better. It's just horrible, and it just continues like that. And you find yourself working toward a betterment, but it doesn't work. Eventually you think, whatever, what am I going to do? Just give up.
And this is what you're left looking like. Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. Look at that. Just like complete, wow. What do I do about this? What do I do about this? There's nothing I can do. He's watching.
Unfortunately, I must say, Sajid, I think he's genuinely a good guy. I really like this guy.
Me too.
Although he blocked me on Twitter.
Whoa! Then he's what should I? I'm about to start ripping up a Quran.
No,
okay.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
I got a short fuse.
I must say, he should realize at this point that what he's reacting to here and what he's feeling so hopeless about is how Muslims generally are and how Islam generally is in practice, in real life, Muslim societies. He should know this. I'm not sure if he is right now he's not in Saudi Arabia right now, I think, but he did go to Saudi Arabia. He studied there. I think he lived there. He should know this. This is why the Islamic world is so dysfunctional, always at conflict, because this is how Muslim society is. This is what Islam produces. So what he is feeling so upset and so hopeless about is Islam. It is the product of Islam. It is the fruits of Islam. He should realize this and maybe eventually figure out that he should just distance himself from it and remove himself from the folds of Islam. That's the ultimate solution.
And he's in a pretty crap situation until then. Sorry, Sajid, we're rooting for you, but we're also rooting for Mohammed Hijab. Different reasons, but all right, take a couple super chats and then we'll head out. Which Quran translation is the most literal? We've gotten that repeatedly. I said I've been impressed by the Pickthall translation over the years. You said Arbery.
Arbery is known to be the most literal, but it's also hard to read because it is the most literal. But if you want to say closest to the actual meaning instead of most literal, which doesn't have to be the same thing, I would say so. Pickthall is definitely a good one, but it has that whole trying to sound old and fancy.
Yeah, I don't like that part about it.
And dost thou think and stuff like that. It's just that's not how the Quran reads.
Yeah, someone needs to come up with the new Pickthall edition. Is that restaurant some kind of Muslim Cracker Barrel? I do not know.
I do not know.
Apostate, prostate. Oh, that's original.
That's pretty
Never
good.
heard that 900 times. He's a Muslim. Who? Hijab? If I gotten a penny for every lie, an idiotic word Mohammed Hijab speaks from his mouth, I'd be a billionaire. You'd be Elon Musk. Be Elon Musk flying to Mars. Guys, what is this PDF you're reading from? Wait, do you mean when we're actually reading from something? Because I was reading from Ibn Asak's Sirat Rasulullah.
Oh, I thought that's a mockery of pedophilia.
Yeah, I thought that too. But I was actually reading from a PDF, so I don't know if that was like serious.
David is looking at PDF files.
Yes, David's looking at PDF files. What's that? What's that, brother? Sulek is greater than Tate. Addresses the same issues without the toxicity. That's good. So follow that. Follow Sulek instead of Muhammad.
What is Sulek?
When do we, I don't know, when do we get our veiled virgin girls? When they're almost as shy as Muhammad. Here's comes another bad weeko for Sneako. Yes, it is. You gotta love it. Sneako loves it too, guys, because it doesn't matter what he says. He wants attention. He wants attention for his videos. And when Hijab, that's why he keeps going back to Hijab. Hijab invariably says something stupid that everyone jumps on, and then everyone goes to it. So Sneako is it's weird. Muhammad is kind of Sneako's a useful idiot for Hijab in the sense that Hijab wants access to Sneako's followers, but Mohammed Hijab is a useful idiot for Sneako because Sneako wants attention for his videos, and Muhammad helps him with it. So it's called mutual manipulation. Promo is manly yet shy. He's flexible like that. Promo. Just finished the book of Ezra, and I must have missed something. A lot of census data and talk of strange wives. Yeah, well, just remember the most important part, that Ezra's the son of God and has to be worshipped. Left and Islam see Israel as the left and Islam see Israel as a common enemy. The left equals hypocrisy via victimhood politics. Islam 7th century barbarism. Israel equals first line of defense against both.
It's true. Inshallah, Israel will eventually reach the goal that we are all secretly planning for, which is to expand and take over the entire Middle East and form Greater Israel to then subdue all the Muslim nations. Yeah, inshallah.
Super bass. And finally from Goat Hub here, AP, have you played Sleeping Dogs yet? It's based in... I'm not going to say that. Not going to say that because AP does the most ridiculous accent ever. I know you love that play.
What, have you played Sleeping Dogs? It's based in Hong Kong. I know you love that place. Hong Kong? I mean, I don't know much about Hong Kong. I always wanted to go there. It looks and sounds pretty good. But no, I haven't.
It's super based.
Hong Kong.
All right. I don't know when we're going live again. Again, I'm going live with God Logic on Tuesday. We could do something tomorrow, depending on how you're feeling. But anything else before we head out? I guess overall takeaway, guys. Dawa has a problem. They've ended up with a bunch of narcissists specialize in getting attention from themselves, and they don't care much how they do it as long as it gets attention. And then you have people who aren't narcissists, who aren't nearly as good at getting attention. And so everyone is rallying around the narcissists, and the people who don't have that personality disorder are horrified at what's going on, and yet they are completely powerless to stop it. And it's making them miserable and depressed. And you just wonder, I mean, how long before any of the sane guys just walk away and say, I'm done. I'm done with all this stuff, leaving nothing but a bunch of screaming, lying narcissists at the heart of Islam, openly mocking Jesus, accusing Abraham and Isaac of all being pedophiles just to protect Muhammad. Like, where's this going? Any final thought, AP, before we close out?
Yeah, I'm kind of recently doing these Twitter Spaces, participating in them. When people host them, I might again tomorrow make some. I don't know if people want to listen in. There'll be a fun thing to do. And yeah, other than that, what can you say? Let's all support the cause of creating Greater Israel and subjugating the Islamic world, removing the Dome of the Rock, and finally building the Third Temple together, and then helping Israel to rise to the power of ruling over the entire world and controlling all countries that there are. Until we achieve that, I would say should happen quite soon. Wish everyone all the best. Yeah.
False. Islam's just going to self-destruct, and we get to watch. And then Israel would take over.
Okay, sorry.
And here we have, wonder what the Talmud says about Andrew Tate. It says he's a little weakling, and that Bugattis are weak and gay.
It does, yeah.
Well, catch y'all next time.
Stay away from